Hello and welcome to a different video for my slice and dice discussion series, or whatever I'm going to call it. This video is going to be talking about the items. I put out a poll recently. I asked you guys what you wanted to see next. I gave you three options: a video about Baron and Basalt, a video just general tips, and an other option. And if you said other, you had to put a comment in the comments. One of the comments I thought was pretty good, just do a video talking about the items, and I went, oh, that sounds fun. I can also do that pretty quickly. So this video is not going to be edited, there's not going to be any gameplay, this is just going to be me sitting here and talking for the next, I imagine, about 2 hours. I'm going to talk about every single item, what I think about it, use cases for it, etc. Before we begin though, in the last video I discussed in something like this, I did not give you my credentials. I don't really like giving credentials because I feel like it puts this air of I'm better than you, and I don't feel that way. Please do not believe I feel that way. I think anyone can do what I've done here if you put your mind to it. However, someone called me a scrub, and they based that fact on me putting Evoker and Gambler in the same tier. So that opinion, by the way, is from the tier list video I did when I hit 5 wins in a row. So I will begin this video by telling you my credentials in case you don't know who I am or you haven't watched in a while and this video just came across your desk. Hello, I am Voyix. I have been playing Slice and Dice pretty much non-stop for the last 4 months now. I started playing it towards the end of December, pretty much exclusively playing hard, and currently I am on a 23 streak with an 82% win rate. This win rate is not correct because my original save file got corrupted. I would say it's probably somewhere more around 60 to 70%, but you know, do with that information what you will. You can still call me a scrub in the comments if you want, and disregard my opinion. Feel free. However, let's begin. I'm just gonna sit here on the Almanac page. I got the stream beats rolling. Before we begin though, I should also say two more disclaimers. We're not going to talk about the zeros or the tens. Generally speaking, the tier zeros are not useless, but they're goofy. Some of them have uses, like for example snake oil. It seems useless at engage to basic heal sides. Engage doubles the amount when they're at full HP, but there is a use for this. You can combo it with the tier 7 item Ichor Chalice, 1 damage to the topmost enemy for each wasted point of healing you receive. So they're not completely useless, but they're just a little bit strange. That's how I would put it. And we're also not going to cover the tier 10s because in the last 100 runs, as we will see here, in the last 100 or so runs, I have never seen a tier 10. So, you know. Shall we? Let's begin with the ones. I'm gonna open each grouping up. Sorry, one more disclaimer. I forgot the other disclaimer. I'm not gonna say it throughout this video, but all of this is my opinion. Your opinions are also valid. Everything fits a different playstyle, etc., etc. Let's start talking. So I'll start with a general opinion of all of the items and what you're gonna expect out of the tier, and then we'll go through each item piece by piece. So, tier 1 items are niche. They are generally not going to be particularly impactful for your run, but if they do anything for you, it is a benefit, I would say. So usually you just want to pick one that has any sort of impact. Basically, in combats 1 through 10, tier 1s can have an impact, but most likely, I would say 90% of tier 1 items are going to be obsolete and meaningless by combat, let's say 14, somewhere around there, somewhere between the second and third boss of the second act, which is a terrible way to put that. Somewhere between the 12 and the 16 boss, the second and third to last bosses, third and fourth boss, however you want to think about it. Somewhere in there, these items are most likely going to become useless. So if they have even a slight amount of impact on your run beyond that point, then I am happy with them. So let's get to it. We're going to go in order from top to bottom. This is ordered by my pick rate, and we will begin with foil. Everything that I just said about tier 1s does not apply to foil. Foil is without a doubt the strongest tier 1 to me. It's so good. Like, it's so good because So replace the right side. Now on the dice, this is not the furthest right side, this is the side directly next to the middle, that side is, on most characters, going to be usable but not super important. It's going to be like dodges or defensive options typically. So you get to replace that with 1, 2, or 3 damage depending on the level. The level is, like, this is level 1, these are your starting heroes. Level 2 is these guys, and then level 3 is here. So, for example, like on Valkyrie, in a fight where you don't expect anyone to die, you can replace Revive 2 with deal 3 damage. Important to note as well, while I'm on this screen, I can just mention it. Skill as a keyword, there's 3 things that are important to know about this actually. Skill as a keyword pairs very well with Copycat because you don't copy the 0 damage on the base item. So on Ninja, if you have a character with skill, which is through foil, Ninja's attack will now do 3 through Copycat, which is solid, like actually really good. Secondly, because the base attack of foil does 0, this item, the side is immune to being weakened. Because if you get -2, it's -2 on 0, which doesn't take you into the negatives in this game, and then the bonus gets applied on top of that. And this will also bypass any sort of curse, like heavy weapons. All items have this property. This isn't specific to foil, but foil's a damage side. Yeah, so bypassing the curses is good as well. And just in general, I think this item is pretty nuts. You can also get through some pretty cool stuff with Copycat. You can Copycat skill onto a character for mana gain, for example. It's just really generally all around an excellent item. This is an item that has impact throughout your run, because you get early game impact converting a non-damaging character into having a damaging side, usually not a side you care about losing, and late game you get to bypass, weaken, and just hit. So overall, foil, there's a lot to say about it, but it really is just great. Across the board, it's excellent. I really have a 100% pick rate on Tattered Robes. I don't think Tattered Robes is that good. I think Tattered Robes is fine. In the tier 1s, there's another classification of item which I think Tattered Robes and one other item fall into, which are the statue replacement items. Sometimes in a run, if you play for long enough, you will run into a pick like, so you can find yourself in a position where going into the first boss, you have your first pick be something like, I don't know, something like Statue Medic, and then Cleric. What would be another one? Like, you could see, like, I guess Cleric, Medic, Statue, Enchanter could be your first 4 hero choices, right? And so, thinking about that, if you have an item like Tattered Robes, suddenly Statue is playable, and this can dig you out of your pit. Which is why I think you can take this if the other item isn't something really good. It just covers a worst case outcome. In general, I think Tattered Robes is pretty useless. I've used it once outside of this niche case where you put it on Statue, because it's actually decent into the hand. I used it on Forsaken to just turn Forsaken into guaranteed mana gain for the hand. But yeah, you can use it there, and there are some characters that use this item well. Real quick, we'll take a look. Typically, you're not going to be putting this on tier 3s, but I think that, yeah, Seer can use it, Sparky can use it, not Fiend. Maiko can get away with it. Evoker, definitely not. Caldera, definitely not. Juggler, no. And Glacia, probably not, but sorry, that's help. Overall, the big thing about this is +1 max stored mana. It's solid. Typically speaking, though, Tattered Robes is not that good, but it's better than all the other tier 1s just because it covers bad cases. Seedling is good because it lets you play roulette, basically. That's why I picked this item. There's a chance now, similar to covering Statue, except Roulette's a really good character with one bad side. Seedling just means Roulette's good later. One thing you're going to find if you're picking Seedling is a lot of early characters actually don't want this item, because replacing their left side with 2 damage growth is often not very good. You should take the growth out of your mind when you think about this item as well. Most fights shouldn't go long enough where the growth is impactful. Occasionally you're going to see this do like 1 extra damage in a fight, but it's pretty unlikely. However, despite that, Seedling is good because a left side replacer for Roulette is good. So I picked this item a lot just for that. and the replacement is sometimes okay. You could also put this on Barbarian, technically. I like Leather Vest, +1 max HP. It is never bad, which is all you can really hope for out of your one. There's never going to be a case where you go, oh, I'd rather not put this on someone, which is good enough for me. So ballet shoes, I had a nice long conversation in a video recently about why I have an 80% pick rate on ballet shoes and a 36% pick rate on pendulum. And this is a little bit complex to talk about, I feel, but it's not that complex. I respect your ability to follow along here, so bear with me. I'm gonna have to jump ahead to a tier 2 to talk about this, but ballet shoes is good because of like 3 reasons, I would say. This is an estimate. Number 1, the rightmost side is typically an X, and a lot of early items are left side replacing. So with ballet shoes, you can swap the X into your left position and your good side into your right position, and then put on something like Burning Blade, for example. And suddenly you're not getting rid of your good side with a slightly better side, you're getting rid of your worst side with a really good side. On top of that, ballet shoes combos extremely well with leather gloves, which copies the rightmost item to the top and bottom of your dice. Instead of copying what is typically not a very good side, you are now copying what is typically your best or second best side thanks to ballet shoes. So yeah, and then lastly, ballet shoes is good because you can just move your good side out of the way of petrify. This is less likely to be that important, but petrify goes in a fixed rate of left to right, top to bottom. So your top side, then your middle 4 sides in order from left to right. So, and then the bottom side. So it's nice for that as well, although pretty niche. It's not really going to end up being a problem all that often. But yeah, overall, ballet shoes is fine. And by fine, I mean it's the one that is most likely to be useful of the side moving items. But it is dependent on other items, and on its own, it's not going to do a whole lot, most likely. Yeah, I mean, Anchor is just good. Same as Leather Vest. On Anchor, you have the added benefit of pain characters getting a lot of value out of this. Turn 1 Shield 2 means you get to play through your pain very easily. It's it's also good for steel characters. It's just really easy for this item to be good on turn 1. Worn Arms, so this is similar to what I talked about with Tattered Robes as well, but this item is for Gambler and Statue, but it's less useful for Statue because Statue still isn't going to be that good. Worn Arms makes it so that you don't have to worry about Gambler as much, and it starts to fall off pretty quickly after Gambler, but then you might not see Gambler. However, early on this item is nice, and later on it's probably not going to do anything, but it's good for the early game, and it covers bad outcomes, so I just pick it. Again, you have to remember, this isn't great. This isn't something that's going to make you go, oh wow, I'm winning the game off of this. 2 damage and 2 shield at the end of the game is pretty meaningless, but early game it's nice, and it does something. Yeah, Bone Charm, no HP penalty when defeated, is sick. It's just really good. You put this on Barbarian, you put this on your low health characters, you put this on Ghast, put this on Roulette, it's awesome. A lot of times death characters are getting huge value when they die, so as long as you're getting enough value from their death when they trade in, Bone Charm just covers the penalty for it. It's very, very good. Compass is one of the weaker side replacing items, but I don't see it all that often. I don't really feel like you get a whole lot of value out of this, but, you know. I don't actually have anything interesting to say about it. Every time I take this, I feel like it does nothing. There's nothing crazy that goes along with it. It's just fine. It's nice to have the ability to move stuff around, but a lot of times combos that involve, like, a lot of times the combos are 2-item combos, I feel like, that mess with separate sides, so I find Compass to be a little underwhelming, but that's just me. Copper Ring is good. I'm a big fan of extra stored mana. Not having to cash in your mana is nice. Empty max HP, it's sometimes a detriment with Pristine, but you're not going to have 5 characters with Pristine. I'll talk a little more about empty max HP 3 items from now. Wolf Ears, again, it does something early. This item does nothing late game unless you pick Twin. it is actively detrimental to your run unless you pick Twin. Important to note that Wolf Ears, if you have a 12 HP character die and they come back to life on the following combat and they're at 6 out of 12 and you put Wolf Ears on them, they will be at 3 out of 6. Similarly, if you have a character with 4 HP die and they go to 2, you put Wolf Ears on them, they're at 3 out of 6. Important to know. But, like, you don't get to bypass death penalties for this. However, that's fine. Usually you just take this and you put it on, like, Fae, Cultist, whoever your early game team is, and then you take it off towards the end, and you're happy with the extra 2 HP. Big Shield, same sort of thing as Seedling, really, where you just pick this item because it covers Roulette. Big Shield early game is also often a lot better, or at least the same as other Gray heroes' leftmost side, because Big Shield's 4 shield. It's 3 on Defender, 4 on Squire with Focus, 4 on Squire with Buckle, 1 on Alloy. So, like, and as you go through, you'll notice that Big Shield is typically going to be a comparable defensive option. Not really better than any of the Grays, but it's comparable. The problem with Big Shield, keep going to the wrong tab. The problem Big Shield faces is that defense is worse than offense, but you still pick it because it covers Roulette for you. So Scar is the one that I was waiting to talk about max HP for. 4 empty max HP is pretty useless, except for if you have a character with a built-in self-healing. So anyone with Tiara holds this item well, and Vampire holds this item well, and I guess Wraith. But yeah, if you have any sort of self-healing, Scar is cool. Otherwise, you're probably passing on this. I guess you could maybe play it if you're playing like endgame Prophet. Wouldn't hate this because you're healing while gaining mana anyway. Doctor, things like that. But mostly you're not going to see much out of Scar. Now, Change of Heart is the item that I feel like I don't understand. It's not that I don't understand it, I just don't want to play this item. I recognize what it does, and a lot of people will say, and I generally can agree, that healing into shields is a benefit. Because instead of having to react to damage, you are able to be proactive towards damage. The negative here is this turns your healer into, or rather, it makes it so your healer can't stop poison. So all you have to do is remember to take Change of Heart off in a fight with poison. For me personally, the very slight benefit of getting to shield instead of heal, it tends to not really outweigh the mental load of having to identify if each combat has poison in it and then move the item off accordingly. So I just find myself not caring about Change of Heart that much. I just feel like it's not worth the effort, really. Poultice is good. This is basically half-cost burst once per fight, and sometimes that is really good. Sometimes this will save a character. Half-cost defensive burst, etc., etc. But like mostly it's just fine. Important to note, and I will say this now, and just know that this is true going forward with spells. Single cast spells, if you put them on Twin, you do not get 2 uses of. You only get the 1 cast. Similarly, I believe if you have 2 of the spell, like if you have 2 poultices out, I think you still only get 1 cast. Not 100% sure on that though. Don't pick Glass Helm. Glass Helm is really fun, and it's very funny. This item is really bad. Death is permanent means, if you don't know, no matter what you do in this game, you will always see 10 hero upgrades. You'll always see all of your 1s to 2s and then all of your 2s to 3s. If for whatever reason you can't, like you skip a 2 for example, and you end up down 1, you will just see extra 3s, right? Or extra 2s, I guess I should say. It's kind of confusing. Basically what Glass Helm does is if you kill a character, you're still going to see 10 level ups, but you will pass the realm of level 3s and you will see level 4 heroes, which are generated heroes. And now I regret to inform you of this, but the level 4 heroes are really bad. I did back-to-back Glass Helm runs and they were both awful. As it turns out, losing characters is generally just not very good, and you're gambling on the game giving you something good as a generate, which it never will. Don't play this. Wine's a little hit or miss. I think this item is good for Venom, because Venom's Plague gets to start at +2. It's also good for Tankard, so I don't hate picking this just because it makes Tankard good, which we'll mention Tankard later. but usually there's something better than this. If there isn't, sometimes you can also play this into bosses because you'll get pretty decent value out of it. But typically I think this is a pass. Pendulum. I already talked pretty much at length about this. Pendulum is similar to ballet shoes, but swapping left and middle, you lose the benefit because nobody really has an X on the middle, except for eccentric, but he's XX there. So pendulum doesn't really give you that same value of swapping an X into the left position so you can replace it. And unfortunately for pendulum, the item that it synergizes really well with is Dragonhide Gloves, but Dragonhide Gloves is in the very stacked tier 5. So pendulum's just a little worse. Knife Bag is the statue item. Similar to Tattered Robes, this is the item you pick and then you say, okay, no matter what, my run is okay. Like, statue will not ruin me today. And that's good. That's all it really needs to do. It covers you from a worst case. Typically, if that's all your tier 1 does, that's fine. It turns a loss because you pull statue medic onto a boss that just kills you into a win. So that's nice. But other than that, you know, also be careful about picking this if you have another character with copycat named a Ninja, because Ninja will just start killing themselves. Because, you know, you're going to be copycatting the cantrip Pains onto their copycat, and then they just start flinging knives and dying. Very funny, but also pretty bad. I think Courage Potion is fine in theory, but buffing up specifically one side one time is probably not going to be that good. It's good for, like, Wizard maybe in the final fight, but I am doubtful that this is going to swing your fight one way or another. Coin is interesting. Something that someone told me about Coin, which I find to be surprising, is that Coin has an inconsistency. Let me put it like this. So in this game, typically, if you have cannot be locked and where's lead shoes cannot be rerolled, what ends up happening is, so like if you put coin and lead boots on a character, the game stops. You can't roll more, like you just can't reroll at all because one of your dice can't be locked and it can't be rerolled. So you just have to press end turn basically, or done rolling, I suppose I should say. What many people have told me, and I believe them, is that for some reason, coin on roulette does not break the game because it's the same wording, cannot be rerolled plus cannot be locked, right? You would think it would work the same way. However, I've been told by many people it does not work that way. If you put coin on roulette, they just don't have to roll, or they don't have to lock their death side, their sticky death side. They just get to reroll. So that interaction is interesting. I think that generally speaking, coin is pretty decent, surprisingly, despite my low pick rate. There are a lot of characters where a +1, like, not you, where's Ninja? There it is. A +1 on this side is game winning in the mid game if you ever roll it. And not Gambler. Juggler it's okay for, Rogue it's whatever, but you get the idea. There are some characters where it's just really, really good to have a +1 on. One other one is Sparky, 3 mana gain is really good. Caldera less so, but like this guy, Fiend, getting to 2 is also good. Like there are enough characters that use this item pretty well. It's usually worth the risk. Just remember that you can press done rolling if you get a good side. So like when you hit, a lot of times the value needs to be good enough that you're willing to just lock everything. Ah, yes, and this is the last playable item basically. The rest of these are pretty much dog shit, but we'll go through them real quick. Barkskin, don't pick this. Immune to shields for 2 max HP, don't do this to yourself. Rusty Plate, don't do this to yourself. Cleanse Potion, this is like, it's fine because it's usually going to be replacing an X, but the odds are pretty unlikely that you're ever going to make good use of this. Sometimes this is going to be sick for you though. If you combo this with Ichor Chalice, I bet it's pretty cool as well, but you know, beware. This item isn't as bad as my pick rate reflects, I just haven't had a lineup. Oh my god, do not pick Caster Root. This is like in competition for my least favorite item in the game. If I say worst item in the game, someone's gonna inevitably go, oh, what about the tier negative curses? Or what about the tier zeros? Yeah, sure. The worst item in hard. Oh, but you can get a tier 0 and get out of here. Leave. This item fucking sucks. It's so bad. Big Heart, middle side with heal 5. I had this be playable on like one run ever. Also, don't pick this. This item is actually sweet, heal 2, regen, cleanse, but it's mana cost. And it's really, really hard to justify rolling this side and then spending 2 mana on it. In theory, though, if this didn't have mana cost on it, or if this were just a spell, this item would be nuts. Again, middle side, replacing an offensive side with a defensive side, especially a personal defensive side like Cloak is. Because the characters that I could see using Cloak are characters whose middle side isn't a strong damage side, but those characters are probably having a strong defensive side there, or mana. Well, I'm going to count mana as a damage side. If they don't have a damage side, they have a defensive side. If they have a defensive side, you probably want them defending other characters because they are your gray and not themselves. Cloak really does very little for you. Yeah, healing wand. Emerald Shard isn't so bad, but the problem is that this is a perspective pick. I actually think that this item is good, but you have to know what your tier 2 is, and you're never going to know what your tier 2 is, so it's hard to make this be playable. But I wonder how many there are that are actually good for this. Many people are confused about Stake. Stake is fine. Terminal ×2 versus targets on 1 HP. What this does is it gives you +1, typically +1, but maybe more mana on a mana gain side that kills an enemy at 1 HP. Or it gives you an easier time killing a null on 1 HP. You can now kill him with a 1 instead of a 2. Or it makes it easier to make bandits run away. Those are all fine. This item is not great, but it does have a use. Basilisk scale. Something that I have learned, I guess, is that there's a very interesting interaction here where you can put basilisk scale on a character and then move this side with another item like liqueur, and it'll actually move the side with the +3, which is cool. So I think this item might be better than I think it is, because I thought it was pretty useless. But, you know, you cleanse the petrify, you get a +3 on one of your sides. The problem is that +3 on one of your sides is not that good, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops to make this playable. Revive potion. I mean, I'm not a big fan of reviving in general. I feel like if you're reviving, you're probably so far behind that you're losing anyway. So, a single-use revive, it's fine. You can maybe dig yourself out of a nightmare, but in reality, I think this is just a pass. And then, reagents. Yeah, right. I'm good, brother. No, I'm okay, truly. There are some characters that make okay use of this, but not many endgame heroes want this item. It's pretty useless. That's the tier 1s. Generally speaking, I think the highlights of tier 1 are foil, ballet shoes, knife bag. Typically what you want out of tier 1s is something to cover really bad cases. You want to cover niche bad cases, like really bad hero picks, so you pick statue, or ballet shoes to cover and make your tier 2 or tier 3 better, things like that. I'm going to pause between each item tier because this is going to be a lot of talking, so I'm going to give my voice like a 5-minute rest. Alright. I'm ready. You ready? Let's continue. The tier 2s are generally going to be more useful than tier 1s, of course, and you're going to see this upward trajectory. These are items that you can start to see yourself playing to the end. A few of them are very good. Some of them are also still very bad, but you get a little more high value out of this stuff, I find. Let's begin. Short sword. So when you think about the dice and when you think about items, you need to think about it in terms of the average placement of X's. Most characters are going to have their most important, most powerful sides on... I'll just bring up a hero for this instead of having to visualize it. Most characters are... I don't like this one, actually. Show me Berserker. Or actually, better yet, show me... Oh, this one's not too good either. This is a good example. Brute. So you're going to have the sides you want to be rolling on the left 4 here. The top, the bottom, and the left 2. And then the right 2 sides are usually going to be some sort of utility and an X. You got like damage, shield, X. You got like repels, shields, and then an X. You got like vampire here has damage, mana, and then utility, and then an X. Things like that, right? Herbalist here, mana gain, regen, basically X's. So you gotta think about it in terms of that. The weaker sides are the right two sides, so the early to mid game getting just two damage sides gonna most likely give your character 0 X's. I think actually it has to give your character 0 X's for tier 2s. Yeah, I think so. So you can no longer miss, and the worst case is 2 damage, which is fine. And this item can also turn a defensive character into a character with defense and offense. Also strong. Pretty cool overall. Twin Daggers is just great. Again, it's a good item for Gambler. It's just a good item in general, though, because you can put this on a lot of characters who are typically defensive oriented. Put this on, like, Jester. Not defensive oriented, but you get the idea there. Put this on, like, Statue. Put it on whoever. And you're getting cantrip damage where there was originally nothing. It lets you roll down a little more safely as well. Just a good item. It's nice damage output across the board. I pick this item a lot, not for the side switching liqueur, but I pick it for the +2 max stored mana. I like being able to hold mana because it lets you hold your bursts. There are going to be times where you can, like, if you're sitting at 5 mana, you could spend that you'll have to spend 2 of that mana on a burst on an enemy where it does not really impact them at all. Whereas on the following turn, you could end up spending that mana on a burst on a different enemy to kill them, or on a burst to save one of your characters, basically. So, I like stored mana, and this item gives you 2 of it. The side swap, it's whatever. I don't find this to be all that useful, but sometimes it's nice. Heal 1 cleanse on Remedy for 1 mana. The big thing about this is that you only need to cleanse 1 to break status effects. So with this, you can cleanse Inflict Death from Basalt, Inflict Single Use from Quartz. You can cleanse Inflict Pain. Is there another one? There might be another one, but those are like the 3 big ones you're gonna see. Or you can also use it to just clear off 1 poison or 1 petrify. Solid as well. For 1 mana, this item is nice. Silver Imp is good. I do find this item to be a little bit tricky to use because it's very easy to kill a character off of this, but rerolls are good. It lets your other characters hit really well. The theory behind Silver Imp is that when you play this item, the rest of your team is going to connect with their best side, and so by the time the Cantrip Pain catches up to you, the fight should be over. However, you do have to be aware that this will probably kill a character in about 2 turns, depending on how much damage they're taking. Sometimes it'll just be 1 turn. You do have to watch very closely. Longbow, it's the same sort of thing as Worn Arms. However, 2 damage ranged is a lot better because you can now kill things without proccing spikes. Primarily though, what you're going to do with this item is put it onto a character who has otherwise not great sides on the top and bottom, things we don't really care about. Now, a good example of this is, I don't think you would ever put this on someone like Warden, for example. 2 damage into 2 damage ranged is a direct, unobjectable upgrade. However, in a majority of cases, it's just a side grade, it's not that big of a deal. Whereas instead you could put that on someone like Herbalist and replace a fairly useless 1 heal regen with 2 damage sides, which still you're going to want to roll mana, but now you're covered and you can't miss, which is nice. Don't put it on Vampire though, or Druid. You get the idea. It goes well on characters to turn a character who is typically more defensively oriented into someone who does damage. A Blessed Ring, as we've talked about, X's are typically on the right, so you just throw this item onto a tier 2 gray. Not armor, sorry. You throw this on like Monk, Knight. Most of them just have an X over there, and now they don't have an X. It's an upgrade on 7 out of 8 tier 2 grays. Wrong tab again. So yeah, you just take this item because of that. Sometimes the Shield 1 Rescue gets to clutch, and you can also combo it with some other fun stuff like Autumn Leaf to put growth on it. Although, you're gonna find that that's not really that useful, it's just fun. I already basically talked about leather gloves. It pairs very well with ballet shoes, and this pairs very well with eccentric. Beyond that, you're not gonna see a whole lot of great use out of this, but... well, that's not true. An important thing to note about leather gloves is this item, if you have a character who has a right side, leather gloves plus wax seal is crazy. Specifically, it goes very well on Armorer in that case, but there are other characters that do that well. Faye does it well. Many characters can make good use out of that combo, but for the most part, you're going to find leather gloves to be pretty good if you have ballet shoes or just okay, and sometimes this item is going to be single-handedly winning you a run. Flickering Blade, I mean, basically the same thing. Generally speaking, you're going to find a very similar opinion here across the board on right side replacers, which is, sorry, same thing as Blessed Ring. You're going to find a similar feeling here, though, of replacing an X with not an X, whatever it is probably good. Flickering Blade, extremely good. That's it. That's all I have to say. Sapphire's cool. Replace the middle side with +2 mana. If you have a strong blue with a good spell, you can put this on a different character to turn them into a mana gainer character. So you just put this on your yellow, replace whatever their middle side is with a way to get mana to help your blue along, or you just play this as an upgrade to your blue's middle side, or your red. Either way, it's just fine. Citrine Ring, this one's a little more niche. Sometimes you find parties where this item does nothing, and that's just what the game shows you, but +1s are good, so tier 2's not so crazy that we're gonna laugh at a +1 with no downside other than it's on the right. My honest opinion about Cheater Sleeves is that it has probably the highest potential of a tier 2. There's a decent chance this item does nothing for you, but in a majority of runs, if you ever get this to proc, a fight ends. If you're playing this on something like a 2 on the top and bottom, yeah, I mean, it just ends the fight for you, really. It pairs well with anyone with double use as well. If you have double use on any character like Disciple or Ninja and you roll that side, and that side matches the Quinn, you're one step closer. Pairs well with Cantrip as well, easy to get there. Pairs well with reuse spells, the one from Wizard and Light as well. Just generally speaking though, if you ever get this to proc and you get the ×5, you probably won the fight. And so I think it's good because it's fun to play around, really. But the big thing about this item is don't kill yourself doing it. Don't lock really bad sides because they match the number, because then if you miss the number, your run's gonna crumble. Like if you end up with 4 really bad 2s and then you miss the cheater sleeve for the 5th 2 that was gonna win you the game, you're gonna fall apart, I find. So just be careful. But it is pretty fun. First one of these character specific ones, Orange Heroes Only First Aid Kit. You can probably guess what I'm going to say about this. This item is really good for roulette. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, you don't really want to be playing this because your left side is your strongest side. Sometimes Heal 4 Cleanse on your orange is nice to have though. There are some characters where I think this is good, but particularly speaking, this item goes on roulette. And you pick this item because you might see roulette. And you pick this because roulette wins you rounds. That's my feeling on it. Titanbane Potion. You know what I said about this potion already if you watched the Hexia video. This item makes Hexia a joke. Don't play this on the hand. Typically you're going to keep this for Hexia, but there was one run where I was really worried about dying to, I think it was Lich, so I took this and I played it on Lich. I didn't hit the side and I won the fight anyway, but yeah, because it'll stop like the bones spawn HP, it'll stop demons from doing their 6 damage blowback damage to you, it'll stop Bramble's single use effect, it'll stop any of that. Just, you know, you have to roll the side, and if you roll it late, it's usually not that great, but it's cool. It's a good item. Slice's student spell, the ability to have the ability to do 1 damage to all is pretty okay, but a lot of times it's hard to cast this spell and feel good about it, I find. Usually there's better uses of your time, but sometimes it's good to just have the ability to do 1 to all, so yeah, it's fine. Like fucking origami, man. Every time I take this item, I just feel confused. It's good, I think, but I often don't feel like I get a whole lot out of it. I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion on origami either way. There's some of these items where I feel like you can just kind of form your own opinion. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I don't have anything to say about it. Friendship Bracelet, I do have something to say about. Originally, I believed that this item was really good. Someone in my Discord pointed out to me that if the enemies are at 5 times as much HP instead of 10 times as much HP. Like, if you have 5 times as much HP as the enemies and this is proccing, you probably already won the fight anyway. So how much does Friendship Bracelet really do for you? And I think that that's true. I actually do think that this item is not that great, but it's fun to play with Statue, and it's fun to play with max HP gains, and it's fun. It's fun to make enemies run away, but I do kind of agree that this item doesn't do a ton. There are going to be times where it's nice though. Makes a Thorn run away earlier sometimes, makes a Slate run away earlier sometimes, so it's kind of a toss-up. I find it to be not a top tier, but not like garbage either. It's just fine. Two of Hearts is fine. Something important to note about this item is that it'll heal you on turn 1, like before the combat starts. So if you have a character at 2 HP going into a fight, and you put 2 of Hearts on them, they will start the fight actually at 4 HP. This is good for start damage, and it's good for that curse where you res at 2 HP, but those are not hard curses. So, generally I think this item is just fine. It's kind of a set it and forget it, and if it does something you go, oh cool. I don't hate Wandify. You would think I would, but you can just get a +1 on your right sides and throw them away. The problem is that there usually isn't anything good on your right side, but if this is ever useful, it's pretty good. I just haven't found it to be all that good in runs. Who uses this well? I don't really know, actually. Maybe like Spellblade, but probably not. Most likely you're gonna pass on this because one of your other tier 2s is better. Clutching is fine. Put this on Juggler so you miss out on the literary device. It's just generally not crazy good. It's not going to do a ton for you, but the option to have ranged is cool. This item fucking sucks. Ironheart is actually a detriment on, like, there's one character I would play this item on. It's Sinew. There's only one character I would play this item on. I could see picking it because you need to hit a damage threshold of 4, and then you just take it off after the fight where you needed to be at 4 on your damage size, but like, man, this item is so bad. Maybe play it with the spell Hack or with someone else who has X replacements for you, but like, let's just keep this shit away from me, honestly. I've actually had a lot of trouble making Burning Blade feel playable. The -2 max HP is very impactful, so I don't pick this all that often. Also, a lot of times, left side replaced with 4 damage isn't that good. Left side strongest side, etc, etc. You know the drill by now. So I find this item to be kind of underwhelming, but it is good for some characters in the endgame. Roulette, of course. Eccentric as well uses this fine. I think I would play this on Barbarian, but maybe not. Yeah, overall I think Burning Blade is pretty mid. Statuette. This item is good if you have Bowl. The problem is that you don't know if you're getting Bowl or not. Bowl is a tier 3, and it says revert all changes to all sides. So it undoes the X's, but you don't lose the max HP. A similar thought, I guess, can be said for this item, Rusty Plate plus Bowl, but it's just kind of worse. I think Statuette does combo pretty well with items like Powdered Mana. There are a few of these where you replace your X's with things that are useful, but it's hard to say if it's going to be good or not, so a lot of times this just gets passed over because the other tier 2 is better. I think you can pick this if the other item is much worse, though. I think it's probably better than rerolling because there's a chance it combos very well. Hard to say, though. Incense, many people argue with me that right is just not a problem, and it's wrong. It's wrong to say that, because, so here's the thought, and I'm sure you're having the thought yourself. How is right a detriment? I could just play the item, like I could just play the side at the end of the turn, and it makes it so that if I rolled any X's, that side is just now not wasted as a +1 to my top side. The counterpoint to this is twofold. So I guess it's 2 counterpoints. Point 1 is that if you're playing this game correctly, in my opinion, you should not be rolling enough X's where Incense is paying you out. You should be playing pretty cautiously. I find, like, you're locking things and you're making concessions to make sure you're not rolling X's. If you watch how I play and the characters I pick, I do a lot to make sure that you're not ever passing turns as best as I can. Secondarily, A lot of times, incense will fuck you over because you'll need to play your dice in a specific order to get a kill, and it will not be able to be played in that order because incense ends your turn effectively. An example of this is if you have a character with Cruel and you need another character to do like 3 damage first, and they can't, well, 3 damage first to put the enemy in range to have the Cruel do their bonus damage to kill. Right can ruin that because you can't actually get the damage out. I just find it to not be that useful because it fucks up your ordering way too much. So, personally, I think incense is not very good for those reasons. I would not pick this basically at all. I think this item is just not good. Buckler is fine. It's actually not that bad because there are a lot of characters where this is just an upgrade for your gray. However, defense is worse than offense, and a lot of times this is going to be up against something that just gives you offensive capability. So, unfortunately, I'm not a big Buckler fan as a result. The only character in the universe where I think Curse Bolt is really positive is Collector, but Curse Bolt makes Collector really, really strong. However, most characters, I think you just pass on Curse Bolt. The 1 damage after you cast a spell is extremely negligible, so I think that sometimes I pick this item if I have a character who uses it now. This is another philosophy that I tend to follow that we should talk about. I think that you want to pick your items in a way where, for the most part, you're picking an item that is good now and can be good later. Cursed Bolt is very hard to be an item that is good now. Now you might be thinking, well, wait, but what about Seedling? Seedling is at least okay on a character in most cases when you see it, and it's great later on because it lets you play roulette. This item is not going to be playable on a lot of characters. Not even not good, it's going to be bad. It's going to make your run worse because you're taking damage for no benefit. So that's the not the juxtaposition, that's the like side by side there, I guess. That's, you could say juxtaposition, I guess. This is not an English lesson. Anyway, that's the compare and contrast, I suppose, is how I will put it. But if you have to have a character who this is good on, otherwise you're risking just picking a dead item. But if the other item is dead, you can take this, but if you're going, oh, I hope this is good later, I think you're better to take a random item. But that's kind of up to you. This is the sort of choice where if you're between something like Cursed Bolt, Statuette, you can pick either of them, or you can just roll it. It's really up to you. It's very unlikely to be meaningful if you're seeing that pick. Sometimes Relic is good. There are going to be cases where Relic lets you clutch a fight if you're cognizant of it being on 1 HP, but I find that it's hard. I mean, I just find that I don't see it very often, apparently, because I've only seen it twice. So, I would be careful with this item. Not really, though. I don't think it's that bad. You pick it sometimes. I think I would re-roll this, though. I don't know. It feels very inconsequential. A lot of times it's going to do nothing, so I find it hard to give a fair rating to, though. It's hard to say. Blessed Water isn't bad. Right side replacers are good. I don't really dislike this item. You pick it, you go, oh, I'm gonna replace my X with 2 healing. Sure. Sometimes that's good. It's 2 heal vitality, so you get to get out of a lot of damage with it too. You can save a life. It's fine. Fuck Big Hammer, man. I hate this item. 5 damage heavy on one of your sides, but you're also making your middle side dead. This is so bad to me. I don't think you should ever pick this. Sapphire Skull. It's not terrible. I think I would play this if I had like Fiend or Cultist. Getting value out of character deaths is good. You just let them go throw themselves at the wall and then scatter, and you get a little extra mana for it. It's alright. Mana Potion. Most of the time, when I pick this item, I never end up using it. So, you know, it's a right side replacer. You can pick it if you like it. I don't really care for it, though. I feel like single use gain 5 mana, it's not that good. It's not winning you the fight or anything. Most of the left sides are... typically you don't want this item. Vitality on a shield just gives you empty max HP, so this has to be on a heal. The character that I think makes good use of this is Prophet, because you get vitality on the rescue, but for the most part, I just pick something else. Oh, it's also good on Shaman if you have Pendulum, because you can turn the... Here, let me show you. That's monsters. It's good on Shaman because you can swap, if you have Pendulum, the 10 heal vitality in. That's cool. But that's a pretty unlikely combo to have, I find. Very niche. 1 mana on your X's. You would think I would love this, but 1 mana is almost nothing. It is not enough to cast anything, so this is very close to an X. I don't hate it because it's better than an X, but a lot of times this is going to be up against something a little bit better. Square wheel. It's hard to put this on any basic character. You're going to have to combo this with something else, otherwise you're just making yourself worse. The only characters I think can kind of use this are like Berserker can get away with it probably because you're losing the cleave for a reroll, which is fine. For the most part, I think you just skip this item though. Yeah, I mean, Garnet sucks. +1 to incoming healing. The problem with this item is it's impossible to know who's gonna need healing 2 turns from now. So it's like sometimes it can be fine, I guess. Heal 3 regen. The problem with this item actually is that it goes on the bottom side. And the reason that's a problem is that I believe after you drink a potion, your side does not go back to the normal side, it goes to a used up single use side. So you're giving up your side for the course of a fight. And normally I say you're probably not going to roll your same side twice anyway, but this is not an effect that's worth giving up a side for. Heal 3 regen, 1 time, I don't think it's worth it. Yellow heroes only +1 to all non-damage sides. It's not great, but if you can combo this with a... what was it? It's Emerald Shard, right? You can combo this with Emerald Shard and then you get a +1 on non-yellows, but, you know. Because important to note, +1 to all non-damage sides is not tethered to the yellow heroes only. The yellow heroes only just applies to who you can put this on. So if you have a way to copy this item, you do get the benefit on someone who is non-yellow. I just find it a little difficult to actually connect. 1 sec, I gotta check Discord, hold on. Okay. Last 2. Restore. I mean, heal 1 to all allies kind of just sucks. 2 mana to heal 1 to all. Typically you need to spend that 2 mana to burst someone instead to keep them alive, but I don't know, maybe on top 3 poisoned. I just don't find myself casting this spell very often. Now everyone please say this one with me. Haha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Gambler's Ace. Very funny. Worth noting, despite my laughter, worth noting that if you have side replacers, you can put the Gambler's Ace first and then put the side replacer second, and it'll replace all the -2s with full value. So like if you put foil over your right side before the Gambler's Ace, it'll not take the -2. It's a terrible example. Say Short Sword. You can put the Gambler's Ace first, and then you can put Short Sword second, and these 2 will be 2s. They will not be 0s because Gambler's Ace is first. But this item kind of sucks. Of course. We are at 1 hour almost, and I am only on tier 3s. I'm gonna go a little faster because, oh man, I'm gonna be here all day. Let's get to it. Glass Blade, exceptionally good. Really, really good. 5 damage on your left side is better than most offensive sides, or you can just turn your defensive characters offensive, and there's no downside. Also goes well on Roulette. Important thing to note, if you put this on Roulette, make sure you take it off if you're going into Tarantus. Or just in general, if this is on your orange hero, take this item off of them walking into Tarantus, because Tarantus is a guaranteed death. Droopy Hat, also 10 out of 10. Max HP, max stored mana. I already talked about it before. Sorry, it's a 9 out of 10 actually. I talked about why I like max stored mana. This gives max stored mana and 2 max HP. Exceptionally good item. Pocket Phylactery, you have to do a little bit of mental math on and figure out if this is good. Typically speaking, there are characters in the game where this item is actually just crazy good. This is great on any character whose left 2 sides are 1s, and it's okay on 2s. At 3s, I would stop playing this. Anything above 3, basically you don't put this item on the character. But if you have 1s or 2s on your left 2 sides, or you already have pain on those sides, this item is fine. It's actually good, because you have to cast the item 6, or you have to cast those sides 6 or 3 times for it to break even, and then after that it becomes negative. On 3s and above, and on those sides, I think you pass though. Also worth noting, if you have self-heal or self-shield on those sides, then you just play it there too. And then it's neutralized completely. Well, kind of. 3 of a Kind is not too hard to play around. It's particularly good because a lot of tier 2s are right side replacers, so if you have any of the tier 2s that replace the right side, 3 of a Kind is kind of just a nice second step. It's not quite a if you cast 3 of a Kind, you win sort of situation though, like Cheater Sleeves is. But it's pretty good. I mean, it's fine, really. Abacus. The big thing here is similar to Ballet Shoes, this is moving an X over to the left, but you're also getting 1 max HP for it, which is nice. You're not getting as good of a copy out of Leather Gloves, but you know, moving an X over and then getting an X on your left replacer is really good. Max HP is good. The Idol of Ayu is good. That's it. Max HP is just good. Same thing. Self-shield every turn for 1. It's just generally good. Something you're going to find out of the tier 3s is that a lot of them are just generally pretty good. Bowl, it's not really good. It doesn't really do much, but, you know. I haven't really seen it that often. I would not pick this much, but it's fun to pick if you're rolling for something like Statue. It's kind of fun. Lightning Rod has dug me out of some really bad situations. If you have a character with self-heal or like give self-heal to an ally, or you have Fae, this item can actually just solo entire fights for you, but you have to be careful with it. It's easy for this to be a detriment to play. You need a good mana gain engine. This is typically an item that's going on a gray or a yellow, I find, because they need health to survive the pain as well. But if this does well, it does really, really well. Sometimes you can even just have it be you have 2 mana banked and this finishes off like 3 or 4 characters for you. Really good, but sometimes this is also going to be really bad. You just have to be aware. I personally believe that Lead Boots and the other item Broken Wheel you should not pick unless you have 0 X's. So if you have 0 X's though, Lead Boots is great. Sometimes you have to take this off as well, like Faye going into certain bosses. If you have this item on her, you're going to be sad because you can't roll Weaken to stop summons, so you got to be careful of that. But generally speaking, +1 to all sides on tier 3, worth the downside. Rain of Arrows is fine. 1 damage duplicate, it's okay. It's nice because it's ranged, but it's okay. Scalpel is unbelievably hero dependent. I do believe a lot of the tier 3 reds are going to find very little use out of this, but Scalpel Vampire is good. Scalpel is also very good if you end up with a way to copy your tier 3s because you get to put your tier 3 items, I should say, because you get to put a +1 to all damage sides on a non-red through this, which is good as well. But I think you're going to find that this item is hard to pick because you have to jump, basically. But it does combo well with things like Short Sword, Twin Daggers. You just turn your red into a bit of a monster with this. I think this is more going to combo with items than it is actual base reds, but you can also just play this on Vampire. Unholy Strength is a lot of gambling. +1 to the middle row is really good. Immune to shields and healing is basically how long can you go before this starts killing you? Because it will eventually reach a point where this starts killing you. You just have to figure out how long you can make it. Important to note, despite being immune to shields and healing, you are not immune to cleanse with Unholy Strength. So if a character is dying with Unholy Strength to poison, and you roll a cleanse heal 2, you can cleanse the poison off. Iron Pendant I would really only play on a character who has a steel side, I find. I just feel like it's hard to pick a character who's going to be taking damage frequently enough for this to be useful. But if you have a steel side, it's not too bad. Whetstone, if you have Soldier or Dabbler, I think this item is good to take. The problem with Whetstone is that there's a decent chance it becomes useless later on, so I like to pick this on a character. I like to pick this as long as my character I currently have is going to get value out of it, because there's a chance you don't see Veteran, Dabalist, sorry, there's something in my throat, Ludus. Oh. There are characters that make good use of this, and there are characters that there is a chance that you just don't see any of them because it's a small pool, I guess, is how I would put it. People tell me Sprout is really good, but every time I've ever thought about it and done the math, I just find that it's better to kill the enemies instead of spend mana on Sprout. It's such a big investment, and I feel like you're much better off just using it on Burst. This catches up to Burst after one cast, but you're basically going in the whole 3 mana to make this heal 3 for 2 and then heal 3 for 1, which in theory is good, but every time I've ever thought about it, I just go, man, I could just kill things instead. Blood Chalice, it's fine. I don't have anything else to say about it. It's fine. I don't really find myself healing enough where this is useful, but it's fine. I would probably reroll, honestly. Ugh. 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 Rejuvenation Wand. Replacing good size with heal 10 single use? Ugh. Gross. I like the concept of Faint Halo. I find it to be pretty useless every time I take it, though. One day I'm gonna have a run where I go, oh yeah, baby, max HP. Urn. It's pretty niche, and it's very hard to tell if this item is actually going to be good at the time that you see it, but I mean, sometimes it's gonna be good. It's kind of a gamble, though, and I find that gambling on your items is usually just gonna be sad, but you can roll for it and try to find cool combos if you want. Some team comps are very interested in being able to cleanse. You're going to go a long time in a fight. You want to be able to cleanse off Petrify. However, giving up your middle side for a heal 3 cleanse is a hard ask, so I find this item to be underwhelming. Sometimes you're going to be in a position, though, where you want this. It's just hard to know because you're seeing it so early. It's hard to know if your team is going to want cleanse. Growth to the rightmost side. Growth is not good, and the rightmost side is not good. Therefore, Autumn Leaf is not good. However, you can put this on Blessed Ring, and it's cute because you get a little growth rescue. Probably not going to get much value out of it, but it is cute. Tower Shield is awful. Heavy shielding is so bad. I think this item is atrocious. Lucky. Lucky is good if you're playing a middle replacer. That's the only case. +1, it's maybe okay if your middle side is bad, like for Sinew as well, but +1 to the left, -2 to the middle on a majority of cases is going to be bad. You play this for... you play this because you're playing a middle side replacer, though, and then the -2 gets overwritten. Play Lich's Tome for the infinite, or don't play Lich's Tome. That's basically my feeling. I just feel like +1 to all sides, but you're making bones. The good thing is that you get initiative on the bones. They don't get to attack right away, but they're attacking you the following turn, so I don't know. It's fun if you like doing the infinite, though, because you can kill infinite bones as long as you get to a 4 damage rampage with it. Fuck Clumsy Hammer, man. This item is way too much work to get use out of. The way that this item works is the enemy that's remaining either has to be the last enemy in the combat, so they have the highest and the lowest HP, or every enemy has to have the same HP, and then you can use this item. The problem is a lot of times you're not going to be able to know if you're actually going to be able to use it when you roll it. Like, say you have an enemy at 5 HP, an enemy at 4 HP, an enemy at 3 HP, and you roll Clumsy Hammer turn 1. There's a chance that you're able to kill the 3 HP enemy and do 1 to the 5 HP enemy, and then Clumsy Hammer is great. But you don't know what the rest of your roll is going to look like, and there's a chance you're just keeping an X here. So, I find this item to really not be worth playing. That's it. Tier 3s are good. Just generally speaking, Pocket Phylactery, Droopy Hat, Glass Blade, Abacus, there's so much good stuff in here. IU. So, strong stuff in Tier 3. Alright, Tier 4s, shall we? Again, I'm gonna try to go a little faster. I can already feel the strain coming in. Doing this in one sitting was a bad idea, but I'm halfway done. We're not quitting now. Tier 4s, we're going to go pretty quickly because there's not a ton to say here. Self-heal on mana gain sides, good. Counteracting pain, good. Healing, just generally healing yourself, good. Tiara, good. Bonesaw is actually crazy. Turning your red heroes into basically having a gun. 3 damage cruel is a ton of damage. Sometimes it does 6. Like, this item is nuts. If you combo this too, if you had the Dream Scalpel, suddenly your red is doing 4s. Ooh, buddy. That shit's nice. Max HP is good. Cracked Wheel is interesting as long as you have a character who can hold this item, i.e. a character with no X's. I would play Cracked Wheel because +1 reroll is good. You're basically making one of your characters slightly less consistent to make your other 4 characters a lot more consistent. So you just put this on a character who has no X's and you go off, or you like make a measured response and you put it on someone with 1 X. Longsword's cool. 3 damage to the middle row. Typically what you do with this is just put it on a red or a blue. Yeah, I mean really that's it. You just put this on a red or a blue, maybe a gray, and you just let them start hitting people. Jester's Cap. I think this item is pretty mid. Honestly, I don't really like it that much, but it's fun. Having the ability to have extra rerolls is good. Can you not click the side? No, you can't. Interesting. Having the ability to have extra rerolls on your team is good, but the rest of Jester is pretty bad except for the 3 mana. But if you hit the 3 mana, I mean, it's not bad. Mini Crossbow is good. Turning your right side into 2 damage ranged engage is very, very strong. The ability to just do 4 for anyone on the right side, replacing an X, excellent. Blue heroes only. The problem with natural is that there are a lot of blue heroes that don't care about this item or find it very mediocre. So I find it to be underwhelming typically, but it's usually not bad because it's 2 mana on your right 2 sides. A lot of times it's good, or at least fine, but there are some tier 3s where this is awful on, so you gotta be not careful, just aware. Splitting arrows, same sort of thing. Replacing your right sides with anything is usually going to be good. So you'll find that splitting arrows is pretty good typically. Magic Staff. This item is either unbelievably strong for you or horrible. This item goes well on Spellblade specifically, and it also goes well on a lot of tier 3 blues, but a lot of tier 2 blues actually don't care about this. So you're gonna find it to be just fine, and then sometimes you're gonna take this and you're gonna see like Wizard or Sorcerer, and your run is going to become a lot better. But typically if you get even a slight amount of value out of this, you just take it, and then you hope that it turns one of your endgame tier 3s into a monster. Charge Skull, you're gonna find 4 mana on death is pretty good. You slap this on a death character, you get like 10 damage out of Barbarian and then 4 mana, and you get to do a little more damage. It's typically just gonna win you the fight. You can also put this on Twin, you can put this on Ghast. It's pretty solid, but you gotta be careful that the death is actually worth it. Dude, Hex, I'm actually a huge believer in now. Many ways to make enemies go to 6 HP. 1 damage and then you kill a Caw. Just kill a ghost from full HP, kill wolves from full HP for 3 mana. In a world where 3 damage equals, or 3 mana equals 4 damage as an optimal rate, 3 mana equals 6 damage once per fight is great, because it swings fights in your favor pretty heavily. So I recommend taking this spell. A lot of times, Charon's Obol is going to do nothing for you. Your right 2 sides are going to be blank or defensive, and you're not going to get much out of this. But if you do, I mean, it's pretty sweet. Empty Chalice is good. It's just a free mana every turn, but you do have to change how you play and go to 0 mana every time. Sometimes it's not going to be right to go to 0 mana. Also, you're going to want to bank your mana for something better, and sometimes you won't be able to go to 0 mana. But, you know, if you have Herbalist, it's a free Vine every turn, which is cool. Yeah, ×2 versus targets that are targeting you. Important to note that this doesn't work on Trapper or Sharp Shot's leftmost side, and you can't use this on defensive options like healing. You can't target yourself and then duel for double value on a shield, for example. But, you know, anything that gives ×2 is probably good, because ×2 and then you get another ×2 and suddenly you're just doing like 36 damage. That's a little much. Suddenly you're doing more like 24 damage. More reasonable. But you get the idea. Duel is good. I missed one. Harpoon. Yeah, replacing the right side is good with basically whatever you get. Harpoon is good. Troll's Nose, regenerate 1 health at the end of each turn. It's fine. You just get regen 1. Cool. It's good for counteracting poison if you took top 3 poisoned. It's good for your pain characters as well. Just generally fine. This item sucks. Viscera, 0 damage, flesh pain. You basically do your entire health bar of damage and then you go to 1 HP. However, it is very funny if you put this on statue and then just launch 20 damage at an enemy. I wouldn't pick this item though. I think it is actually really bad. Hissing Ring is sweet. 2 damage poison on the middle side. Typically your middle side is a damage side anyway, so you're just turning it into a better damage side very often. Very cool. Tarium is good, replacing right sides. Again, starting to feel like a bit of a broken record, so I'm just going to say that from here on. Replacing right sides is good, Terrarium is good. Siphon, similar to Viscera, sucks, but both of these items, by the way, if you have a form of self-healing, are good. Of course. But you're going to probably find that on average these aren't very good. Heal 1 after you cast a spell. I don't hate this for characters who have pain, but typically I find myself just re-rolling. The odds that this actually does something are pretty minor. I guess it can kind of offset Hexia as well, but you're not going to get a ton of value out of this, I would expect. Flawed Diamond, if you have built-in healing, this item's actually sweet. If you have a good way to do healing, honestly like Life Bolt, or just like self-healing sides, or the ability to add self-heal, because Pristine is good, it's a ×2. ×2s are good, and it's on 2 sides, which is also good, but you're going to have a little bit of trouble. You're going to find yourself having a little bit of trouble actually reaching the Pristine, I think. It's hard to heal 4 and also not take any damage. That's the real problem. You have to heal 4, and the enemies have to not target you, or you have to kill them. Demon Eye. Sometimes this item is sweet. A lot of times this item just kills you, but sometimes it's sweet. I would be very careful about this though. This is the voices. People tell me they like Hack. I've heard people say Hack is very good. I don't think Hack is all that good. Again, I don't find a lot of value out of replacing blank sides because I play in a way where I try not to roll blanks very much. So if you have characters who are exerting a lot, or you have multiple X's, like 2 or 3 X's on a character, I think you can pick Hack just to be a nice little way out. But it is interesting that this spell gets better. Like, playing this spell means you want to roll X's because 4 damage is probably better than whatever else you're doing. I think it's hard to really see though because of how I play. Quicksilver's okay. Keep unused shields. You put this on a character with anything that has steel on it, and then you just bank shields, which is cool. Immune to poison? Sure. It's fine. You put this on whoever, really. It's mostly good. It's basically just sometimes an enemy with poison is going to target the character with anti-venom, and then you're going to have a significantly easier fight. Or, of course, play this with top 3 poison. Sometimes I'm going to skip over things like play anti-venom with top 3 poison because I do feel like you can kind of put that one together for yourself, though. Smelly Manure is terrible. The only good case for this is if you have cantrips on the top and bottom and a way to neutralize, or you just don't care about the middle. But no character I find ever actually has that use case. Maybe Roulette? I don't think it's Roulette though. Is it Roulette? That's Roulette. Growth on cantrips is good. That's what I would say. And that's the only real good case for Smelly Manure. Typically though, this item is just bad. I think that Syringe is cool if you're having a really bad run. Like if you're having a run that is really, really struggling, or you're having a run where you have characters that are dying a lot. You have pain characters, you just sack them and then you get the Syringe value. A few characters to look out for Syringe on are Surgeon, because the extra +5 can give you an extra operate to keep rezzing. Valkyrie, Maiko, any character with revives are gonna like Syringe as well, because it basically just lets you get out of jail free if you hit the revive. But don't lean too hard on it because you can miss revive and then die. I don't like Mana Jelly. I think there's probably some fringe use case for it, but I just don't see it to be very good. Because you're going to burn through all your mana sides very quickly, and then your character is going to be all X's. I actually don't know what you're supposed to do with Power Stone. I know Cranberry did something where he put Quicksilver on a character with Steel. Or, no, he put Quicksilver Power Stone on his Gray and then just kept feeding into it. And that's cool. But other than that absurdly fringe case, because these are both 4s, this item is so bad. Lichfinger. The problem with Lichfinger is that, typically speaking, the side that this is going to be on, the way that you get big value out of this, you want to play that side twice. You want to put this on like Weaver's charged mana gain side, and then you get charged mana gain on a mana side, and this just cashes in if you play it twice. You just win the fight. And you're not going to get it twice, you're only going to get it once, and then you can't cast your spell. So, I don't know. Maybe play this on like Barbarian or Ghast if you're already killing them. But realistically, the problem is that this is a tier 4, and it's very hard to make this useful on any tier 2 or on any level 2 character. Most likely, if you're putting this on a level 2 character, it is a detriment, so it's just going to make your run worse at the time you see it, and you're just hoping that you get something good later. Ego's okay, but again, it's only good on characters that are in the game later. It's good on, I think, Doctor or Surgeon. So you're picking this and then you're just hoping that you see, not you. You're hoping that you see, not really Doctor. You're hoping that you see like Fate or Surgeon, because then you get the doubled up mana gain, but it's really not that good. And it's pretty useless other than those characters, I find, so I just kind of pass. Ritual Dagger. Probably not. The problem I have with this item, of course, is that if you're in a position where you are playing this to get value, the odds are you only have 1 or 2 turns left before you're losing the game, and you have to hit Ritual Dagger in time, which is likely not going to happen. Or not likely, but there's a chance you miss. You're just kind of gambling. Better to take something that's just good. Fuck Diving Suit, man. It's so bad. Just don't pick this. I don't actually see any use for it. Mana Bomb. Mana Bomb is the item that you play. You give yourself 10 mana, throw Mana Bomb, and then figure out that you can't undo when you lose the combat. It's just so bad. I really don't think you ever pick Mana Bomb. Because it also takes all your mana away to play it. Just don't do this. And don't play Pillow. The only character that uses Pillow well is Sinew, because if you exert, you get to get the ×2. But I don't know. Just don't do this. I really just feel like you don't do this. If you like dual Pillow Sinew, dueling pistol Pillow, suddenly you get 4 damage, chain it up to 8. I don't think you should do that. don't pick this. All right, took a little bit of a longer break for that one. Let's get back into it, shall we? Where am I? I'm on tier 5s. All right, so tier 5s are pretty stacked. This is where you're gonna see some real banger items. This is where I feel like your items start to shape your run. Tier 4 and below, they're all like nice bonuses, but they're probably not going to be run defining. This is where you start to see some stuff that's going to really win you the game. Shall we? Let's begin with Duck, the goat. So basically Echo is really strong. This item turns many characters into endgame winning characters, and all you really need for Duck to be a winning pickup is a character with 1 right side, ideally a mana gaining right side, and Echo will pop off. Because at mana gaining, the high end of mana gaining is 4. So if you Echo mana even up to like 2 or 3, you're getting really insane value out of Duck. So Duck is good, and if you see Wizard, Duck is winning the game for you. You see Armor, it's probably winning the game for you. There are many, many combos that just make this item crazy. Worth mentioning, Duck and Echo in general is not that good on cantrips, though. Determination, no dying for the first 2 turns. Most fights are decided by the end of the 2nd turn as to who's winning and losing. So, yeah, you just slap this on a character with death, they get to throw their big damage out and not die, and they get to do it again next turn. Good for Roulette, good for Barbarian, good for Ghast. Gast is getting a lot of honorable mentions just because he's one that needs specific items to be playable, but, you know. Determination is good. It's also just good for, like, Warlock. Pain, big pain side's solid as well. Idol of, I'm going to be calling this the Idol of Chris. Idol of Chris here, it's good. That's it. HP is good. On some characters, this is better than a tier 7 in terms of how much HP it gives, so yeah. Some characters don't like this item though. It's a little bit, you just put it on whoever gets the most value out of it and is going to be expecting to get hit a lot. Typically speaking, Dragonhide Gloves is just good. Duplicating your middle side to the top and bottom is good for a majority of characters, so Dragonhide Gloves is usually good. Same thing as Leather Gloves too. This works really well with Wax Seal later on. Eucalyptus is good because your right side, having Cleanse in your run is good, and your right side is usually a side that you're okay with giving up. If there's something there, it's usually a defensive option anyway. So you just put this down and suddenly you have a way to heal 6 Cleanse, and you get to split it across 2 characters. Very strong. Special Beam Cannon. Love this item. It's basically like Hex, but a little bit different. It's for 2 more mana. For 5 mana, you get to pick a target and do 7 to them. This kills a lot of enemies for you. This kills birds from full HP. And just 7 damage is a lot. It often, the other thing it does for you is it lets you drop demons below their damage threshold very easily, so you don't have to take the 6. But yeah, generally speaking, this item is okay. I don't think it's crazy. It's not like a snap pick. There are better items, but it's good. I put Chakram on Poet, and then Poet kills people with charged bow sides. It's also good on... It's good, but you have to just be aware of there are going to be fights where you don't want your Gray to just be throwing a bunch of damage out. Just be cognizant of that fact and recognize that you're going to have to take this off going into some boss fights probably. But generally speaking, this item is fine. Simplicity is peak. Pick this item if it's good and hope it becomes great. +1 to basic sides is very good. The plus side of Simplicity is most of the time a blue or red can hold this in the worst case as a +1 to mana sides, which is solid. But in the ideal world, you're putting this on Veteran or Dabblist. So probably you're going to be picking this anyway. Like, I think typically I pick this over skipping, but if there's a better item, you just take that instead. If this has current application and potential later application, though, I will often take this over something else. But if you're just taking this and hoping that it's good later on, the odds are that it's going to be at least somewhat good. Self-shield to all damage sides, it's pretty decent. You put this on Barbarian, he doesn't kill himself. You can put this on basically anyone. It's just more defense while you're attacking. It's solid. Helps you with Hexia too. Shuriken, I think you have a lot of trouble actually putting damage sides on the right, so a lot of times Shuriken is not going to do a whole lot, but if Shuriken does anything, it's really good. It's easy to chain too since you're getting the ranged. There's most likely going to be someone else with ranged in your party, or rather you can draft someone else with ranged in your party, like you can take Assassin with this in mind. But it's important to note that if you have a shield on your right 2 sides, it will not get ranged and it will not chain off of ranged sides. Heart of Light, basically the same thing as Eucalyptus, but you're doing 2 sides. It's more consistent that you'll hit Cleanse, but you get less of it when you do hit, so it's close. It's a little hit or miss. I think you take this though because it's nice to have Cleanse. Blindfold, it's good for... This one is good for a lot of characters, so I will go through them. It's good. It's okay for Roulette. You lose the cleaves, but you also get to have 7 damage. It's great for Barbarian. Insanely good for Barbarian. It's okay for Ghast because of the death side going away, but still giving 5 mana. It's good for Artificer. Well, it's okay for Artificer, I guess, because his mana's on the top and bottom, not in the middle. Importantly, this item is really good if you have Wandcraft, which is a tier 8 we'll talk about. It makes Wandcraft, like, broken, though. Crazy good. Shining Bow, ranged all damage sides. This item is good. Ranged is good. This is good. Fairy Pact, I actually have a lot of trouble with this item. In theory, it seems like it should be good, but 4 max HP is so much to give up. I have a lot of trouble actually playing Fairy Pact. I think it's like, maybe playable on some heroes, but typically I find this to just be really difficult to get use out of. Eye Patch, basically the same things as Blindfold. It's good on those 3 characters, but it's unlikely, but not impossible, that you're going to be getting value out of this when you pick it, so it is a perspective take. That being said, being able to put this item on roulette, especially if your first pick is something, again, if this is up against, like, I don't know, there are a lot of items where I would pick this over the other item because the other item is just okay, and this makes it so that if your first tier 3 hero pick is like roulette versus twin, you can just pick roulette because you took eye patch and then you win an otherwise losing position, which is good. So I'm willing to take eye patch, but only if there isn't something more directly and immediately useful. The problem I have with Sack of Mana is that you really need a top and bottom replacer to go with it, and if you have a top and bottom replacer, or you have like Dragonhide gloves for some reason, this item is good. But if you don't have a top and bottom replacer, I think this item is hard to play. It's also good with Fairy Dust and things like that, but you don't have Fairy Dust yet. That's a tier 8. We'll talk about it when we get there. Fearless, +1 max HP, and replace an X with the chance to stun. Pretty cool. Decent. I actually think this item sucks. The only case I would say is worth considering for heat is if you have, like, was it Enchanted Harp? But I think that's a tier 5 as well. You need an item that gives you shield to all, or you need cantrip shields for this to make sense, and then it's okay because you get to cleanse your entire team. Typically though, you don't need to cleanse your entire team, so I just don't think heat is all that good. Again, I'd rather be doing offense than defense. Chocolate Bar is good if you have an item that is good with, or if you have like Gladiator. This is very much a good if it's good item, and if it's good, it's really good. But pretty often you're going to find this to not be very good. There are a decent number of characters that love this item though. Door, it's decent. I think it's just fine. The big winners for Door are Bard and Poet, because shield 1 to all becomes shield 3 and shield 4 to all on those two, and that is really good as it turns out. It's also good on any character like Brawler, where you have a damage self-shield side, because you just start to get pumping out pretty big damage. You do end up wanting to think about leaving enemies alive that are less threatening with this though, which is important to keep in mind. Whiskey's okay. Empty max HP is a little bit hit or miss, so I play this if I have a good self-healing option already built in. Otherwise, it's very hard to get that health back. If you picked Wine at the start of the run because the other item was like Caster Root or something like that, pick Tankard. Or if you picked top 3 Poison as your curse, pick Tankard. Otherwise, do not pick this item. It's okay, but the rest of the tier 5 is so stacked that you're better off just rolling for a random tier 5, I think. Because there's a chance that this is really good because you're taking poison, but most likely this is going to be useless in most fights unless you have guaranteed poison already. Red Flag isn't bad. It's a pretty crazy item on statue. This does let you just condense half of the combat's damage down in a turn into one character. It also probably combos really well with someone like Forsaken, but as you can see, in the last like 103 runs, I have seen this item 1 time, so my opinion is a little bit muddied. I think it's alright though. Ordinary Triangle, literally just look at your team and ask yourself if this is good. Because if it's good now, it'll probably be okay later. But if this is dead right now, just don't pick it. That's how I go about deciding on this item. Ambrosia's cool. Rescue to the left side, sometimes it doesn't help that much. Also, 2 of the characters who have Rescue already have it on the left side, so there's a decent chance that this item is not... Or no, it's only 1. Profit. Valkyries is in the middle. Important to note that Rescue works if you kill an enemy that's doing damage, so Ambrosia can go on a damage side and just wipe an entire fight out for you. But you gotta... It's just okay, I think. I think there's also theoretically an infinite on Hexia with this, but I don't know it. I'll leave that to someone in the comments to tell me about. Incoming healing +2, XD. Underdog to the bottom side. It's only on one side and the target has to have more HP than you. I find it very hard for this item to actually see use. A lot has to go right for this to even be slightly playable. Clink, just don't pick this. It's so hard to make any value out of this. Just don't do it to yourself. I think you can, like, obviously doubling shields, play it with seal, high roll, etc. On average, this item is just useless. Terrible spell. Again, look at this one, you just look at your items. Are the 0 through 3s good? Sometimes they are, pick Polished Emerald. Sometimes they aren't, don't pick Polished Emerald. Very hard to find a character who's okay with Enchanted Harp. Your defensive character's middle side is probably a big shield, which means that you're giving up a big single shield for 2 shield to all. Not really that good, because shielding all is less good than saving one character who's dying. So, Pauldron, typically there's symmetry in your top and bottom side, so I find that Pauldron has a little bit of trouble. +2 on the top, -2 on the bottom. It's a technical net gain if your top and bottom sides are 1s, because you're getting 3 on top, 0 on bottom, versus 1 on top, 1 on bottom, but you're basically adding another X. I find this item to be pretty bad. Treasure Chest is good on Wizard, and maybe, like, Ghast, I guess. Typically, though, unless there's already single use on the left side, this is pretty useless. I don't think it's all that good. It's also better if your basic items are worse, like your 0 through 4s are worse, but typically I would just skip this item. Monocle, it only affects one side. Engage, not that good. Typically pass. Alembic, it can be good. Adding mana gain is very strong, but it's a big gamble on hitting this with another good side. It's good if you have Barbarian though, but you're not going to have Barbarian when you're picking this, I don't think. I would say probably pass, but sometimes. Demon Horn, pretty niche as well. Most likely you just reroll this. Updog. Same thing as Underdog. It's only one side that it's working on, so the odds that you're gonna meet both conditions are kind of rough. Fuck Ladder. Similar to Diving Suit. Base sides on the higher characters' base sides, probably bad. The only use case for Ladder is if your orange is really useless and your blue is doing all the work, then you can put Ladder on your orange to get mana to help your blue. Likely not that good. This item, I actually think, weighted towards when you see it, this is the worst item in the game. For a tier 5, this is so bad. Inflict single use is so useless. Do you know what the odds are that an enemy is going to roll the same side 2 turns in a row? They're pretty low. The answer is 1 in 36. I guess it's actually no, it's 1 in 6 basically that this ever does anything for you. So no, I'm not quite right, because the first side is free. It can hit whatever they hit for the first time is fine, and it's a 1 in 6 every turn after that this even does anything. But you're wasting your turn and giving yourself an X to have a very small chance that the enemies do nothing on a following turn. This item is awful. Do not pick this. Okay. Tier 6s. We're into the area where almost every item in the tier is good, and you're privileged to take basically anything. You just have to pick what's best for you. Some of these are pretty bad, though. Thimble, excellent. Put this on a Pain character, put this on your blue and Hexia. It's a game winner. Cliff of Purity, adding Cleanse to already good sides is great. It goes very well on Stalwart, it goes very well on basically every gray. It's strong, Cleanse is good, it's very unintrusive. If Nunchaku is good, it's very good. If Nunchaku is bad, don't pick it. Again, this is one where you just look. If it's good when you're seeing it, you just take it. I think at this point on, you just look at your team and ask yourself if the item is good. That's the trick. For the 1 through 5s, you do a little bit of planning ahead, but now it starts to become, is this good on anyone? No, okay, let's look at the other item. Or maybe reroll. Overflowing Chalice is crazy. This is a free burst every turn, as long as you can end at 3 mana, and then you just spend your excess mana to kill when you have lethal on the enemies. It's really, really good. Hourglass is fine. Getting a strong first turn is good, particularly good for cantrip characters. Good for Wizard as well. Really, I mean, +1 on turn 1 is good. Take this. Twisted Flax is a net positive. Better if you have a middle side replacer. I like Shimmering Halo. I think it's really bad. I really don't think you should pick this item. I keep taking it and it keeps doing nothing for me. Good thing to note though, Shimmering Halo can save yourself. So you can rescue someone else, have the 2 HP take you out of death range, and then have it rescue yourself, which is cool. But really, I don't think you should take this very often. Demonic Deal. I refer to this, I referred to an earlier item actually as the Voices. This item is extremely the Voices. Demonic Deal is good on Barbarian, Warlock. It's good if you have the item that gives you self-shield to your sides, and it's good if you have built-in healing, like self-heal sides as well. But this is another item. Look and be very careful, because if you're wrong, this item will just render one of your characters completely unplayable, or just kill them. Just know that it's good, but you have to be safe with it. Don't kill yourself with it. Crescent Shield is really good. People sometimes will ask me what this does, so I will tell you real quick. The way that this item works is it shields one, and if it kills an enemy or rescues an ally, you get to reuse it. And it does 1 damage to everyone that is targeting the person you shield. This can be increased to like 2, 3, 4, and then it'll repel 2, 3, 4. So if you have any way to give Crescent Shield bonuses, like a +1 or a +2 even, this item will basically solo carry a lot of fights for you if, and very important, if you roll it. That's the problem with this item. It is only on one side. Crescent Shield is only on the left side. You can miss, but it's nice to have in the arsenal. And yeah, no, it just pops off a lot of times. Blinding Bolt. It's okay. You play this on a character with a steel side and it's really good. It's also nice to help a pain character live through damage, so I don't hate it. This is the ultimate just look item. Twisted Bar is an item also that lets you keep specifically Fae and Spellblade to the end of the run, because those characters with Twisted Bar, as long as they have the HP to non-die, will have more impact than a lot of tier 3s. Also very good for Sorcerer, Wizard. Any character who has a lot of 1s, you just slap Twisted Bar on. Generally, this item is very strong. Ghost Shield. Shielding for free is good. Candle is fun. I don't hate it because, again, similar to Syringe, this is just a way to recover a losing fight. Good with death characters as well. Just throw your Ghast or your Barbarian away, get extra value, and then get a +1 on another character. Put this item on Surgeon, truly. Or Valkyrie or someone with res. It's basically the same thing as Syringe. +2 to incoming shields. If you have a steel character, play this. If you have a character who's particularly prone to dying, play this. If you have Blinding Bolt, or isn't there one that does shield 1? I've already forgotten. I think there's a bolt that does shield 1. Is that a tier 4? It's a life bolt. Maybe I'm wrong. First bolt. I think I'm wrong. If you have the if you have any way to like if you have Blinding Bolt, it's good though. Like anything like that. Extra shields, good with steel basically. Blood Amulet, very good with a lot of things. This is great on Dancer. Dancer has that Rampage Pain side. Great on Dancer. Okay for Barbarian. One of his 2 sides is death though. Surprisingly not good for Warlock because of where his pain sides are. Good for Demonic Deal, of course. Generally speaking, Blood Amulet is nice to have. The ability to just have self-heal is good. Tentacle is either really good or completely useless, and you just have to look and make the judgment call. If you have sides to put Repel on, this item is probably winning. Any side also that does like Shield to all is really good with this because you'll get to repel on all allies. But just be wary. -2 max HP is a bit of a negative. Sometimes this item does nothing. Just keep your eyes peeled. +1 to the left side, it is fine. You don't reroll this item, but you're not too happy about it. Early Grave, it's okay. I think you cantrip mana gain. You can cantrip the heal mana gain sides that some of the characters have on the top and bottom. But most importantly, you can cantrip Valkyrie's don't die side, and that is ridiculous because you don't even take anything from the pain. I think this item is usually okay though. Again, this is one where you just look, because your tier 6s I feel like you actually want to be having an immediate impact out of for sure. So if this is immediately bad, don't take this. But you know, it requires a little bit of thinking. I'd like to make this a comprehensive guide where like I can tell you every situation, but ultimately this video is not going to be a comprehensive in every position you can pick this item sort of guide, because every position is different and you're going to have to analyze it yourself a little bit. But this is just a little bit of an idea of some of the combos and things you can look out for. Should have said that at the start of the video, not an hour and 40 minutes in, but you know. Heavy +1 to all damage sides. I find that heavy is actually very often more of a negative than the +1 is a positive, so I'm very wary of Leaden Handle. You can use this though to force cantrips to hit a high health target, which is okay, I guess, to kill Hydra, but like, I wouldn't pick this for that. Tie, same problem as many other items I've said, it only affects one side, but Pristine is good sometimes. Cantrip on only specifically one side is a little bit better, but the best character for this is Eccentric. The problem is that Descend isn't hard-coded to not target the bottom character, so sometimes your Descend is wasted. It's still 4 damage cantrip, which is fine, but it's a little bit disappointing. Poem. This is okay. It's not as bad as it seems. Specifically, this is good on Surgeon, but any of the characters with heal mana gain for your tier 3 reds actually make great use of this because they get ×2 when they target themselves. And sometimes they get ×2 on allies, it depends. But this is effectively just weird ego, but a little better. You use this to double up your mana gain on some characters and it's okay. I don't know, water is fine. Typically this is more of a positive than it is a negative because there's nothing on the far right side. So you're getting a good +1, -1, +1. But again, just look, ask yourself if this is good for your current characters, and if it isn't, skip it. Infiniheal is good on 2 characters, I guess technically 3. So what this does is you get, instead of what the base side is, you get a heal all side with the same keywords. This is good in 3 cases. It's good on Fae because you get to boost all. It's good on armor because you get to smith all, and it's good on anyone with cleanse on the right too because you get to cleanse all for the same value effect. So it's okay. Typically I think you skip this though. Cleanse all isn't that good. Growth, I'm not a fan. If you have a cantrip on the left, maybe, but you're gonna find this to be pretty underwhelming. It's a +1, but it's only to one side. It's basically the same as Ocular Amulet. If there's not something better, you probably pick this because it's worse to reroll, but not excited about it. Poodle is another flavor of ego, basically. You just play this and then you go, okay, now when I play these cards on myself, I double the effect. And sometimes, very infrequently, but sometimes it'll work on allies or enemies as well. I wouldn't really take this though, because the sides are awkward. It's not that good on these sides. Spinning Scythe. It's okay if you have no way to do 1 to all, but I think you're going to find that with how good the other items are in tier 6, you're hard pressed to find a time where you want to pick Spinning Scythe. Mark. For 4 mana, I think this is just a little overcosted. It's a little too expensive, but sometimes it's going to be really good. I just don't think it's that great. Lens is good for Vampire and Wraith because you get to focus their damage, but for the most part you're going to find this to be okay for any of the healers who have mana gain because you get to double up their healing. But you do have to have something else to target to proc the focus, which is a little more difficult of a condition for a double. But if you do hit it, it is pretty good. This item is so bad. I honestly think you should never take this. I can't, like, shield 1 cantrip, I just don't pick this. I really don't think it's good. There's probably some fringe cases out there where it's okay, but I would rather reroll. Scales. I like the idea of scales, but it's really hard for this item to find a character that wants it. Most likely, the use case that you're going to find for scales is if you have a right side replacer, like a copycat or a blessed ring, and then you put that on someone with like a 8 or a 9, like a barbarian or like a roulette, and then you get to max that item out. But, you know, I think realistically, it's pretty hard to see this be good, and tier 6 is pretty stacked. But if you have a good right side item, it's okay. I think Karma sucks. I really, really don't like this item. Self-heal to heal, self-shield to shield, pain to damage. You're just worse off typically. It's okay on like a few reds and grays, but it's not that good. There's way better 6s than this. This item is a joke. Even in a case where you're playing Exert, patient on the right 3 sides, I'm okay. Single use +2, it's okay if you have wizard maybe. Outside of wizard, I think I would pass. No wait, there's another fringe case for you here. I haven't had this come up, but if you have determination, you could use wand grips with roulette plus determination in case the fight goes long to not have to die to the side later in the fight. Similar thought for Ghast, similar thought for Barbarian. I think you're gonna have trouble seeing that ever actually pan out, but I mean, a +2 single use isn't that bad to play it for like a poison. If you have a single use on the left side also, it's fine. But again, this tier is stacked. Dynamo, single use, and Era. I think Era is really bad. Like, I really don't like Era. Putting Era on the right sides, pretty bad. Single use, pretty bad. I would not pick this item basically in any circumstance ever. I can't imagine a world where I would pick this item. The only way you would ever give this item to me is if I randomed it. We're gonna power through here. We're almost done. Shall we? Tier 7, I think 7, 8, 9 are pretty stacked. 7 is the most stacked of the tiers. There is almost no bad item in tier 7. So let's begin. Wax Seal is busted. Conditionless +1s, and the thing about Wax Seal is that it can be +2, +3, +4. This item is so good on so many characters. I basically would never skip it. That is how good I think it is. It's almost always going to have a character where it's extremely good, and it's going to be at least okay on someone. Here, let me, real quick, I'll go through and I'll give you some characters where it's very good, but there are too many to count. Great on Ninja. Very good, just gotta rest for a second. I want to go to tier 3s here. It's okay for Fencer, good for Sharp Shot, okay for Dancer. I wouldn't say Venom. It's okay for Dabblist, Assassin, Roulette is good, don't play it there. No, it's okay for you. You get the idea. There's a lot of characters, a lot of reds particularly, that are going to use this item very well. Oops. It's just really good. Mushroom, I've done the math a few times to talk about Mushroom. Mushroom is good as long, in short, Mushroom is good as long as the character you're putting it on doesn't have any 1s, because it takes 3 plays of a single side for Mushroom to start becoming a negative, as long as your side isn't a 1. If it's a 1, then it only takes 2 plays for the Mushroom to be a negative. But think about it like this. Normally, you would get 2 mana out of a side. With Mushroom, you would get 3 mana, then 2 mana, then 1 mana. So on the 3rd play, you've broken even, but you got the first mana that you were paid. You basically go into debt, and you pay back that mana later. But a lot of times the fight ends before you have to pay the debt. 2 reads, it's not bad. I mean, it's really good actually. +1, but without a downside other than it has to be on even sides. Solid. This is usually going to be a +1 on multiple sides. Probably like 2 or 3 per character typically. Sickle is good because there are a lot of characters where all of their sides are the lowest sides. Spellblade, Fae, Wizard. So this just becomes a +1 to all with no downside. Worst case, you're probably going to get like a +1 on 2 or 3 sides. So, personally, I'm pro Sickle. Pair of Kings, it's good. It's very easy for Pair of Kings to just do well. And sometimes it does exceptionally well, like really good. But it's very easy to just get a ×2 out of this, and a ×2 on a 2 or a 3, especially on mana, very good, you're going to find. It is often very nice to just get a free double up on your mana. Pocket Mirror, it's good. I mean, really, it's just good. Copy left or right. Your right's usually an X, your left is usually your best side. Yeah, shocking. Very strong. Again, if you're unsure on any of these items, just take them. Or rather, just look. But also just take them and play with them for yourself and try to keep note of what's good and what's bad. Max HP is good. Sharp Wit, it's either really good or really bad, and it'll depend on your team comp. If you're playing some sort of mana oppressive curse, sometimes it's good to just go, okay, give me big damage instead. But some characters are going to use this very well, and some characters are going to use this very poorly. This one is one where you just kind of look at your blue and you think about how much impact they're supposed to have on the run. And, you know, someone like Weaver, though, if you have good mana gain, get a charge damage side, or you get some 9 damages out of him. Kind of cool. Conduit. The worst case is you're replacing your middle side with 2 mana, which is good. 2 mana is a good payout, so I think Conduit's okay. As long as your blue is strong. If you have a weak blue, you don't play this. Boost of Speed, +1 reroll, but without much of a downside. Really, really good. Very good item. Sometimes the downside is you're giving up your left side for a dodge, but for a +1 reroll for the rest of your team, it's usually a sacrifice you're willing to make. I'm not going to say it anymore, but I want you to know that the implication is anything that replaces the left side, good for Eccentric, good for Roulette. I didn't say Eccentric earlier in the video, but Eccentric was included in the left side replacers being good. Just less good because Seedling isn't that crazy on Eccentric. Paraiba is good. Era, I am a hater, but mana is much lower of a bar. Even just a +1 to mana gain sides is a very big impact. Going from 2 to 3 mana, 3 to 4 mana, etc. So after turn 1, this is already giving you insanely good value. So Paraiba's good. Burst Plus, if you don't have a better item in a better use case, Study is really good. The problem with Study is that the other items are all really good, so Study becomes a little bit worse. But improving your Burst is very strong. If you remember, we talked about how 3 mana for 4 damage is a good rate. This is now 2 mana for 3 damage, which is a similarly good rate. I love this spell. Invest is so much fun. I love going for crazy value plays, but it is a little bit hard for Invest to really do anything for you, you'll find. But a lot of times if you're playing Invest, your goal of the run is to get to a point where you can have nobody die and you get to cast Invest, and then once you reach that point, you start winning the game. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. I wouldn't skip this item though, but there are many, many better items. Yeah, just look at your team and find out if Wooden Bracelet is good. This is a just look. You don't need me to tell you much more than that, do you? If it's good, it's good, and if it isn't, it isn't. Troll's Blood, this is like settling. Regen 2 is fine. Dragon Pipe, it's okay. This is good because it's a double dip. Many of the 2 mana reds are healing reds, so you get a little bit of extra value of mana for Doctor. Good for Fate, things like that. So that's where that item shines. It's also okay for damage sides too. Add Steel to the middle side. I've said it many times, I'll say it again. The problem with this item is that it only goes on one side, but sometimes that one side will win you the game if you have a good use for it, so it's okay. Poison Dip is fine. Poison to the top and bottom. Again, just look. If there's a cantrip, this is really good. If there's a cleave, it's really good. You're gonna typically find it to just be okay. Typically, you want something a little more immediate than poison, I think. Metal Studs. It's good for some characters. Armor, Wizard, any mana gain shield characters like it. It's okay for Poet, but something you're gonna find, again, tier 7's pretty stacked, so while this is a good effect in a vacuum, it's going to probably be up against a much better effect. Flute. Rightmost side with shield 1 to all allies cantrip. This item, again, same thing. It's good, the right side is usually an X. The other items in this tier are often going to be better though. But it's not bad. I wouldn't say auto skip it or anything like that, just consider it. Make sure you're considering it with a clear mind. Ogre Blood, exact same thought as Anvil. It's only on one side. The other items are probably better, but if they aren't, this item is fine. Second Chance, same thing. It's fine. Other items are probably better. I really feel like I'm just saying the same shit over and over again, but it's true. It really is just that way. Sorry to say. I talked at length about right already. My opinion does not change because this one gives a +1. This item is not very good. And if you're wondering why, you must have skipped ahead in the video. Go back to the part where I talk about incense. That was in the tier 2s. Demon Claw. It's okay. This one you really have to look and think about it. The thing about Demon Claw and Rampage in general is that it's not good for boss killing. So you're gonna have a little bit of trouble finding this to be all that great. However, this item, if it's good, is going to make your mid-game and your end-game very good, because you just get to wipe out entire fights with it. So if you have trouble with area of effect in your run, you have trouble killing multiple enemies, consider Demon Claw. But I'm starting to sound like a little bit of a broken record. The other items are probably better. Charge is theoretically fine. Shield 2 boost. It's basically double dipping burst. You get to shield 2 and you get +2 damage theoretically, but I don't know. I just don't see this item very much. Rest of the tier is good. I'm gonna stop saying that, but that's implied. Broadsword, again, it's okay. Some characters are going to use this fine and be happy with it. For the most part though, see previous comments. This item just sucks. Middle side with shield 0 flash. You're getting like an 8 or a 9 point shield probably, but you're gonna find that... I'm just gonna keep saying it, man. The rest of the items are just better. Erythrocyte isn't bad, everything else is just better. That's what it comes down to. It's fine. It's a nice shield, but you'd rather be doing something more proactive. Charge Link, I actually do want to talk about. I don't think other items are better. I think Charge Link is niche. Charge Link is good on characters like Artificer and Weaver who already have single uses, and when you're giving them extra charged mana gain sides, it's actually really good. If you have a way to cancel out the single use, that's also solid. But something you're going to find is that this item is hard to make good use out of, but if you're putting charged onto a good damage side or onto a good mana side, this item will probably just win you the game. But it's a little bit of a gamble to pick, and the other items are better. Tier 7 is stacked, sorry. Spark sucks. This item is so bad. There's no the other items are better twist here. This item is fucking awful. There's like a very, very fringe case where you're somehow generating like 10 mana and then you put this on a charge side. Or this is good with Barbarian, but just pick something else. Don't play this. Because your best case is you're putting this on Barbarian for 5 mana and he's giving you 8 mana back. I guess 10 mana back, which is okay, but it's so fucking niche. There's just no way. Stasis is good for Artificer and for Wandcraft, but you won't have Wandcraft, so you'll never know if this is good. It's the cart before the horse problem. This is great with Wandcraft, but will you know you have Wandcraft? Well, no, you don't, because Wandcraft is an 8. Important to note, Stasis also has a lot of negatives. Your sides cannot change means that 1, I believe they can't have pain or petrify happen to them, but 2, they also cannot have increases from steel, bloodlust, charged, etc. So you can't be inflicted anything, but you also can't have anything added like charged or bloodlust. So just be wary. Particularly good for Artificer, good for Wandcraft, and maybe okay for the installation, but it's in a very stacked tier. Ichor Chalice is good with Shaman. That's basically it. Shaman has that big 10 heal, which becomes a massive nuke. It's good for Doctor as well, because you have the 20 heal, but these are niche, and the rest of tier 7 is strong. Do you get the point about tier 7? I think you probably got the point about tier 7. Tier 7 is strong. Okay. Home stretch. I'm gonna have to go lay down or something after this. I didn't expect this video to be so taxing, but I have just been talking for 2 hours straight pretty much. Deep breath. Here, let me take a drink of water. Okay. Tier 8. Tier 8 is a little more divisive. There are some really good items in here, and there are some really bad items in here. But these are the items where you're starting to think about how this item impacts the last two bosses and what these items do for you overall. So, Scorpion Tail is pretty much game winning. This is an item where you put this on a character, they pain themselves and they just cancel a boss's turn or severely weaken it. Cancel a spawn, stop Hexia's Petrify, stop a poison swing, stop a slate from spawning, stop a weakened flanking attack. Like, it just does so much for you. You have a tier 8. You have the tier 8 going into the last boss, right? Second to last boss, I mean. Oh no, I don't think you do actually. No, you have it after, so never mind about the basalt stuff. But yeah, you basically just take this and you go cancel a turn for Hexia and win the fight for free. The pain is negligible because you're going to be stopping more damage than you're taking usually. Sushi's good. Rerolls are good. Put this on like, I mean, eccentric, twin, yada yada yada, you know. This is okay for twin though, I will say. Because it gives you a lot of rerolls and it lets your rest of your team hit perfectly. +1 to mana. Yeah, mana is good. +1 to mana is good. Prism is okay. Bonus equal to the number of keywords on the side. Rainbow is a keyword, so worst case, this is a +1. Most likely this is going to be like a +2 or a +3 to a character. This is good if you have like a cantrip on your middle. Good for like Sorcerer or Chronos. Other than that, it's just fine, I would say. Enemies can put keywords on you though with Inflict Pain, which is pretty funny. I think anyway. You can put keywords on yourself as well. You'll find it to be just fine. It's very, very good with Chaos Wand though. This item, if you take it and then you see Chaos Wand, which we'll talk about next, it'll just win you the game. Chaos Wand just kind of like clobbers with this. +1 to all damage sides. Yeah, +1s are good. Brimstone's pretty goofy. There are some characters that use this item very well. It's also good with ballet shoes, of course. Anything that moves things to the right side is good, but you can do some pretty strong stuff with this. I believe in a recent run, no, it was actually Helm of Power, but you can put this on a lot of yellows and just blow enemies away. This is definitely an item though where you look because your tier 8 is very important. So if you're not 100% sure this is good, you don't take this. Serration. Yeah. Vulnerable is game winning on its own. Put this on a cantrip or like a fencer double use, for example. Serration will just auto win you the game. But across the board, just adding vulnerable to your sides is good typically. If you have a damage side and you can put this on it, it's strong. Greatsword's pretty mid. You're replacing your middle side with 5 damage, which is okay. The Inspired will sometimes proc and give you a 10. This is good on some characters, and it's really useless on a lot of others. So again, just look. Some of the characters that this is going to be good on are things like, and again, I could go through and I could tell you specifically which characters it's really good for, but that would add to a lot of strain on me and this video, and I trust that you can do it yourself, right? Like a few examples though. Eccentric? Yeah, of course. Bash? Probably. Veteran? Sure. Leader? Yeah. Yeah, you know, you just go through and you do this when you get offered characters, or when you get offered this item, you just look at your characters and you go, who makes good use of this? Is this good? I trust you can do it. I believe in you. Light is good. Light is really, really good for Wizard, because a lot of times the way that Wizard is winning you the game is because you're getting so much, you're increasing his numbers and his mana gain so high that you're net positive on his spell. So Light just gives you an extra use of that. But across the board, 3 mana reuse without messing up things like Pair. This is basically a free use on Pair for 3 mana as well. It helps you with Quinn, helps you with Triple if those are in your run too. Just across the board, it's probably pretty good. There's usually going to be something that makes great use of Light. Wandcraft is interesting. It's a pretty big gamble. If your blue is good and you have a yellow who has good numbers on their sides, Wandcraft is strong because you just turn their big damage sides into big mana sides and let your blue crush the fight. It's good if you took Blindfold earlier, it's good if you took Stasis earlier as well, then it kind of becomes a no-brainer. But you kind of have to look at this one for yourself. Something important to note as well though, Wandcraft replaces X's with 0 mana gain single use, which could then combo with something like Echo, for example. Just worth mentioning. Fairy Dust, if it's good, basically. If you have a character with multiple X's, or if you have something like Statuette or Sack of Mana, you take Fairy Dust. But I think that Statuette and Sack of Mana are not items that you're taking normally, so you're not going to be in the position to play around Fairy Dust. That's my feeling, anyway. I like to minimize the number of X's, so I find that this item is often not great. Yeah, Singularity, again, just look. If you have good sides on your right, pick this. If you don't, don't. That's what a lot of these items come down to. There's not a crazy trick. And I do feel almost like I'm scamming you a bit with this video by not going more in depth, but I hope you don't feel... I feel like you, as my viewer, are able to look at a character and go, let me give you an example, right? Is this character good for Singularity? Don't type yet. No, delete the comment saying yes. Remove the timestamp, remove the yes, and type no. Thank you. Is this character good for Singularity? Well, this one's a little more debatable. It depends on how good your blue is, but I would say probably not. This character good? No. No, it's like okay. Right? You just kind of do this. You look at your team, you go like, I have Fate. Does Fate use Singularity well? No. I have Weaver. Does he use Singularity well? No. I have Poet. No, you're not Poet. You're Poet. I have Poet. Does he use Singularity well? It's okay. And then like Poet's the sort of thing where you have Poet and then you go, okay, well one of my other characters that I haven't picked yet could be good with Singularity, so I'll take it here. That's kind of how you have to go about the thought process, but again, if you're looking at it and you're going Singularity versus something like Sapphire Ring, I hope that's an easy choice for you. Olympian Trident. It's only on a single side. You're going to find me saying this a lot. It's only on a single side, so the side has to be very good. It has to be game winning, and Cleave isn't that good into the final boss, so I don't care that much about this item. I find it to be just a little bit too late. It's past the point where I care about Cleave. If I was gonna die, I was gonna die before I got this item because I didn't have Cleave. Cleave was gonna save me in a fight prior to this, not in a fight after the point of seeing this item. Okay. Cocoon is bad, but it has some fringe cases. It combos well with... You have to be playing a run where you're playing very slow, and you have to be... It's like something like Prophet, Stalwart with Rescue, maybe. And then I could see playing Cocoon on a blue and just slow burning. It's also okay into Hexia because Hexia is a slow fight, but you don't know if you're fighting Hexia. So... a lot of times Cocoon is going to be too big of a detriment on the first turn to be worth gambling on. It might be good, but it's going to be very dependent on a lot of factors. If you have general +1s to neutralize the -1, you can maybe say it's okay, but this is absolutely not on a character who has a lot of 1s because you're giving them a bunch of X's on turn 1. And it's okay if you can cancel out the -1. I think generally speaking though, you're better off re-rolling. If you have a character with steel, you play Iron Blood Pendant. If you don't have a character with steel, you skip this item. Usually, +1 to all sides on your yellow is good. If you have an item that copies 8s, which I don't think there is one in the game actually, this item is better. Deadly Bolt is bad. This item is legitimately harmful every time I take it. The reason is, and this goes for Burning Halo as well, I want to say, I'm going to cover both of these at once. These are both actively harmful to your run typically. If an enemy has spikes or is Hexia with Pain Mirror, and you have Deadly Bolt or Burning Halo on a character and it does 1 damage, your character takes the spikes damage. Your character takes the Pain Mirror from Hexia. The character holding this item gets hit. Most of the time, especially with Burning Halo, whenever I've had this item, it's actually caused me to be in a worse position than I was before. However, I think this item might have an infinite associated with it if you have a rescue side, so there is that to look out for. I just don't know it super well. So I might be missing that part where you could do like rescue an ally, right? Hexia Pain Mirrors puts you into death range, rescue yourself, Hexia Pain Mirrors, rescue an ally. I guess it wouldn't go forever, but it could go forever if you had a way to get mana burn in there too. Because like rescue yourself, damage to Hexia, Hexia damages you, burst yourself, Hexia damages you, puts you back into dying range, go again. You'd have to put mana gain on the rescue side though. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but there's like maybe something to do with it there. I think generally speaking though, if you're just trying to play around and actually win, never take these. I think they're actively harmful. Mirror Mask is awful. The only use case is if you have a really bad orange, you're stuck on like Ludus or some shit, you have to take Ludus in the mid game. You can play Mirror Mask to turn your Ludus into a copy of your blue and generate mana, but Ludus might be better just swinging. The big crime of Mirror Mask is that it doesn't work on Twin to give you 2 copies of your yellow, because the lower Twin will copy the upper Twin's base side, and the upper Twin's base side is just Twin. Unfortunately. This item sucks too. Enhanced Wand. Permaboost sounds cool, but in reality, you're effectively passing your turn to give a +1 to an ally. It's not that good, and I think what you'll find is that your top side is usually not worth giving up for this, and tier 8s are just better than this, so I don't think this item is good. Alright. One more water drink and we're gonna go through the 9s. I think that 8 and 9 are the most run defining in terms of beating the final boss. So being sure that you're not like whiffing here is important. Don't be settling. Look for something good is what I feel. Ready? Hands down, strongest item in the game is Dolphin. I don't think that this is much of a question. I think this item is so unbelievably strong. If you hit this item, you probably won. You slap it on a blue, your blue gives you so much mana you win the game. You slap it on a gray, you just can't stop shielding. Many ways to win the game off of Dolphin. Just pick it. It's really good. Angel Feather, you put this on your gray and your team becomes near unkillable. If you have Stalwart or Valkyrie, your team actually becomes unkillable a lot of the time. Yeah, that's it. Rescue on top and bottom is very good for your gray. The end. Triple Shuriken, especially good if you have Assassin because it means that your yellow gets to auto chain basically. Bypass, having all your sides be ranged is good. Hit backline very easily, kill the bird on dragon, bypass Hexia's Pain Mirror. Very solid. And yeah, the chain is nice too if it procs, but just ranged on everything is good. +1 to all sides. Is this good? You tell me. The only reason you don't take this is because there's something better for your run. +4 to all sides with 4 or more pips. Again, the tier 9s are very easy to pick. You just look at your team. Do you have a character with multiple sides that are 4 or more? The answer to this question is probably. But Veteran uses it very well, Ludus uses it very well, Eccentric very well. Don't put this on Warlock. Unless you have Tiara. If you have Tiara, it's cool. But probably don't put this on Warlock. Things like that, though. What you'll find is that Dumbbell is either good or useless. Important thing to note for this item, and I should have mentioned this for Ordinary Triangle as well. If you're going into the hand's +1 does not count. So a character with a 3 pip in the hand, it'll look like a 4, but if you put Dumbbell on them, it will not go to 8. Important thing to note. Copycat to the top and bottom sides. I want to go to the heroes for this one because I think there are specifically heroes who use this very well. Prophet, not Witch. I mean, Witch is okay, but Prophet, not Surgeon. Is it just Prophet? I think that you want this on mana gain, basically. Because you get to get value out of... First of all, it's good if you have any of the characters with mana gain, because then you can put this on someone else and give them mana gain, right? So if you have Copycat on, let's say, Veteran, suddenly this is 3 damage mana gain, and now Veteran is generating mana without any negative. Similarly, however, if you can Copycat... Where is it? So I didn't plan this out ahead, as you can probably tell. But like if you can Copycat Steal onto your mana gain side, or better yet, Charged onto one of your mana gain sides, like Prophet with Charged, that's also very good. Or like Warlock with Charged. Weaver's okay, right? Mana sides basically with another bonus. Copycat is good. So generally speaking, this one's a little harder to tell, but you just look at if you have good sides, and if you do, you play them. That's kind of it. If you have good keywords to copycat, you take this. Helm of Power. In a recent video, I took Helm of Power and I killed Hexia in a single hit, I believe it was. I think it might have been Brimstone. This item is good on any character with a high number on the left side. Now, I know what I've said many times, which is that it's just affecting one side, so it's not that good. And it's true, it's not that good, but if you hit with this item on your left side on the correct character, it will sometimes just win you the fight. If you put this on Barbarian, he's doing 20 damage. That half health half the bosses, or half health 2 of the bosses, and almost kills Hexia. It's very good for those reasons. And otherwise, I mean, I think that typically you keep this unless you're not getting more than like 2 out of it, but most characters are getting a lot out of it. 4 hide bracers, it's good. +2 to the top and bottom. Problem that Boarhide Bracers faces is that a lot of the 9s are better than it, but it's still fine. I would never reroll this. Silk Cape is good because it gives you a lot of consistency on your left side. It's also good if you have Wax Seal, for example, because you get to just duplicate all, or like plus to all of those. But you just have to be sure that your left side is good and worth duplicating. Again, Silk Cape, it's not better than some of these ones, but it's pretty good. Time Stone's a little hard to use. Some characters love this item, like Eccentric, and if you're playing like a Fade at the end, it's really good. But some characters are going to find this item completely useless, so you kind of just have to look. Horned Viper is good on Barbarian because it lets you basically win the fight if you connect with one of your left 2 sides, but a lot of times what you're going to find is that this item is just outclassed. Are there any other characters that make great use out of Horned Viper? I guess Roulette, kind of. 5 damage poison is good. Not really. No. Veteran's okay with it too. Bash. You just kind of do this when you have your characters and you see this item. I play it on Brawler. But it's not better than some of the other items, right? That's the important thing. This is good. This effect is fine. This effect is like crazy. This effect is broken. So it's like the side-by-side there. It depends on what it's against, really. Charged Hammer. It's a left side replacer. You know what they say. I think this item's a little bit underwhelming though. 10 damage heavy. It's okay, and you're doing a lot of damage to the boss. It does also come with the charged keyword, which is nice for copycat, but you know, you're gonna find this one to be a little bit hit or miss. If you have Eccentric though, this is a hit. You can play it on Twin if you really wanna. Bullseye just kind of sucks. Engage to the middle column, you're gonna find this to be pretty underwhelming, I find. Engage to the middle column, most characters don't really care about this. Enemies are also gonna take chip damage pretty fast. I want my tier 9 item to be something that is monumental and groundbreaking, and this is good on turn 1, and then it's kind of just bad. So, I struggle to find it to be all that good. Iron Crown is interesting. Grey Hero's only +4 to the left side. It's not great because it's only affecting one side. I think there are 2 characters that use this really well. Or like even, sorry, 2 characters that I think actually get much value out of this at all. Valkyrie gets okay value out of this because if she goes into Death Wish now, she's dropping 16s out of it. Not Stalwart. The other one is Keeper. 6 damage Repel is strong. But the rest of them, oh, I guess Granite as well, 6 damage Repel. The rest of them, though, they really just don't care about this item, so it's kind of hit or miss. It's kind of strange that this item exists to me, since a lot of the Greys make no use of it, but whatever. I think that typically speaking, you just look, and if you're in a position where Iron Crown seems okay, take it. Otherwise, just reroll. Most likely, you're gonna reroll this, but sometimes you're gonna get it and you're gonna go, it's okay, I'll put it on Keeper. Who knows? Emerald Mirror, this is, I can never tell you if this is good or not. You just have to look. Look at your 5 through 7s. Think about the fact that you can unequip things from them. So you can unequip like a 5 if it's really not that good on certain characters or something like that, and then you can just use this as a bonus of a 6 and a 7. I will give you one piece of advice you may not know about Emerald Mirror. If you have two different items, let me see if I can find a good example here. So let's say you have Crescent Shield, replace it, the replacer of the left side, and you have, let's say Eye Patch. Eye Patch is a good one. Remove all keywords from the left side. This is an obvious conflict. However, it will place the items on the character in the order that the items are on your characters on your team. So if Eye Patch is on the orange and Crescent Shield is on your yellow, Eye Patch will be placed first and then Crescent Shield will be placed second according to Emerald Mirror. So basically it'll go in order from top to bottom in terms of placing the items for ordering. So if you have two different side replacers, you put the one that you want to keep on a later character. But it's extremely niche and very unlikely that it'll ever matter, it's just kind of cool. Chaos Wand, I can't even show you how often I picked this, it goes off the screen. Replace the middle side with 1 damage, single-use cleave, engage, self-heal, weaken, vulnerable. I think Chaos Wand is good. The problem that Chaos Wand has is that it's severely outclassed by the rest of the items. But when you roll this, you basically get to, you know, weaken, vulnerable 1 on 3 targets is good. And if you have Rainbow, this item is crazy. Not Rainbow, sorry, Prism. If you have Prism, this item is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 8 damage, cleave, single use, engage, all these keywords. Really good. So, yeah, I think this item's fine. The only time I've ever had Goblet of Life feel useful to me is on Twin. And it actually isn't bad on Twin, but if you're in a position where you're playing Goblet of Life Twin, you're probably having a bad one. And I gotta tell you, I was having a bad one. Yeah, no, I mean, it's cool with Rainbow. Typically speaking, though, just reroll this for a better item. The only case is if there's like, no, I really feel like you just reroll for a better item, honestly. This is probably close to the worst case, is Goblet of Life. I think your worst case pick is like Goblet of Life Iron Crown, and you already have something like Stalwart. That's an easy reroll. There's an item that did I talk about Wand of Stun? I think somehow I skipped right over Wand of Stun. I totally did. So real quick, I'm gonna go back and talk about Wand of Stun. I was originally a big hater of Wand of Stun. Sorry I missed this, by the way. I was a huge hater of Wand of Stun back in the day. Original save file me, I hated this item. I thought it was so dead. But I've come around on it a little bit. I think it's fine as long as you have a character who doesn't hate losing their middle side, because stunning the final boss is really good. Being able to force the final boss to miss a turn is strong, really strong. So I think that it's okay for that, but the problem is that you have to roll the actual side on the boss on a turn where it matters, and sometimes it doesn't line up. So just be wary, but I wanted to make sure I talked about it because I remember Wand of Stun being an item that people said that they liked that I remember hating. But I think it's okay. And yeah, that'll do it. Thank you for watching. If you made it all the way, hell yeah, dude. What a trooper. My next video will be a lot shorter than this, but I wanted to do something long. I wanted to do a long form video like this. Overall, I don't think that there is any item in the game other than Wand of Wand. Now, I mean, there are some items that I think you would never take in any circumstance, but a lot of this game is understanding the context of the run that you're in and figuring out what you want, basically. It's a lot of, you want to approach it from the perspective of, is this item a benefit now? Am I at risk if this item is not a benefit now? And can this item be a benefit later? And you just have to value each item versus the collective whole. It's hard to take a real hard line, this is how you should approach this. You kind of just have to use judgment. Try the items out, and most importantly, don't consider an item good just because it has one really fringe use case that you hit one time. Make sure you think about how good it's going to be on average. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave me a like. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.